Hello there, hello there, hello there everybody. How the devil are we all? I am literally melty. In a very actual sense, I have melted. I talk to you today as a sweaty puddle on the floor, which is why I'm not on screen, obviously, because the nip-nops are out. And when they're out and about, the camera gets turned off, because there's only so much sexiness that the human eye can really contend with. And I feel that might be too much. You know? Oh, it's too fucking hot, everybody, isn't it? I don't know if I don't know where you are in the world, frankly, but if you are anywhere near me, you are very warm. So there's that, you know. Now, obviously, global warming is very much height on everyone's mind, given that we're literally fucked. But let's look for some positives, shall we? Let's look for some positives in this. It does appear that we're all going to die, but the French will burn first. So, you know, let's look. I'm not saying it's all a good thing. I'm just saying as we begin to smoulder ourselves, we can look across at the Eiffel Tower melting, Which, you know, I look. I'm not saying I'm not saying you bring it on. I'm just saying look for your silver linings, lads. You know. That is ridiculous, by the way. What the fuck? You are in the North Atlantic, friends. Sort yourselves the fuck out. Anyway. How are we all? Are we well? I do hope so. I'll be mainly focusing on Yankoid shit today. Albeit that in both discussions it's sort of importance to all of humanity. So, you know, it's not like I'm just talking about fucking American shit. But there will be an American bent to the proceedings. But there are a couple of sort of Britoid things that I wanted to just sort of talk about, focus, whatever. One being the passage of the assisted dying bill. So I'll probably cover this a little bit more detail when Helena gets back, or when the Lords debates happen and stuff like that. It's got a way to go on its journey, but kind of euthanasia is being sort of legalised, maybe. Now, I'm okay in general with the concept. I'm very much on board with the principle of being able to help somebody out of their pain and suffering. Okay, I think any person who's been through the experience of watching someone degenerate, in the very literal sense of that word, not in the kind of right-wing dumb sense, but very literally, like their body begins to die. The body and mind that once existed, that created, or not created, but was the essence of that person, disappears. And it's a genuinely shattering experience for everybody, including, of course, the person who is suffering that pain. And so anything to allow a person in that situation to take control of that suffering and to ultimately have the final say over death. Death will not be the thing that decides me, I will decide myself, is, I think, the core of the human spirit, frankly. There are very few things in this world that one can completely control, but in that situation, ending one's own life for medical reasons, perfectly reasonable thing to want to do. So I'm okay, I'm on board with the concept of that, and I want there to be a legislative framework in place to allow for that. But as with every law, there needs to be reasonable safeguards in place and a lack of loopholes through which bad actors, or just mistakes, can end up costing innocent people. And this piece of legislation, again, we'll get into the sort of details of it a bit more once they start refining it in the Lords over the coming weeks. Presumably it will happen after the summer recess, because they're about to go on their summer hollybobs, which is fair enough. It's the summer, that's fine, and they'll come back. But this piece of legislation is fucking dreadful. There are a number of factors involved in the safeguarding that are atrocious. One of which being, and this is unbelievable to me, that there are exceptional circumstances allowed for whereby the two-doctor, what some people have hyperbolically called the death panel. That's not really fair or right to enter that kind of American bullshit into our discussions, but that's what it was called by one particularly oafish member of Parliament. The two independent doctors who would sign off on the request by the sick person, in exceptional circumstances, wouldn't have to meet the person. Now, I'm not happy with that in of itself as a concept. The idea of two doctors deciding something so consequential having never met the patient is farcical. But what's even worse is that what's even worse is that the special or exceptional circumstances are not outlined at all. It just says exceptional circumstances. It doesn't outline what those exceptional circumstances would be. At all. Which is not just an abrogation of duty, but frankly, a betrayal of the very people you're looking to, in theory, help. So that's not a loophole, that's a yawning chasm. And that's just one problem that I have with the legislation. To abrogate your duty to the fucking Lords, and that's another problem with this, is that the supporters of this bill have said that the House of Lords will sort the problems with it out. That's not how it's supposed to fucking work. You are supposed to send what you think is a good piece of legislation to the Lords, and they then refine it. Not that you send a shit piece of legislation that you know is shit to the Lords, expecting them to sort out your primary legislation. They are a refiner of primary legislation, not an author. It's fucking madness. To the point where I'm now stuck in a very desperate situation as a supporter of democracy, that I'm now hoping that the House of Lords, the unelected chamber of cuntery that shouldn't exist, that I would happily have ground into dust and used as kitty litter, I'm hoping it will overrule the elected chamber of the representatives of the people. That's what I'm hoping now happens.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's fucking madness.
Victory is ours!
Like, everything in this country is so shit. Even when you have a government made up of people who call themselves, like, social democrats, or, like, at the very least, like, social liberals or whatever, you still end up with appalling legislation. I mean, just abysmally shit legislation written by wankers. And the part of the problem is, there are so many Labour Party politicians willing to get on board with this because it's the one piece of freedom they've ever been given by this current Labour Party government to sound progressive. They're not allowed to talk about progressive policy in terms of foreign policy, in terms of economics, in terms of healthcare. Well, for the most part with healthcare, but on this one particular issue, it was allowed as an issue of conscience. So they were given a free vote, so they could all stand up in Parliament and give grandiose speeches about what fantastic, progressive, enlightened, modern, forward-thinking people they were. And then they'll go back to cutting fucking benefits for everybody next week. And that's the problem I have here. Or one of the many, many problems I have here. The very same people who voted for this fucking awful legislation, however well-intentioned the legislation may have been, and I have my problems there with Kim Ledbetter as well, the main author and proponent of the bill, who is a fucking ghoul. The same people who supported this, including, of course, the Prime Minister, who literally voted for this piece of legislation, didn't need to. As the Prime Minister, they often don't. The same people who voted for this bill and stood up and supported it because they care about the small guy. They care about people who are disabled. They care about people who are terminally ill. They care about people who can't care for themselves. Are in the next few weeks going to march all through the lobbies to financially eviscerate hundreds of thousands of the most disabled, physically impaired, psychologically impaired people in the country. They're about to march through the lobbies and impoverish those people to the point where you could possibly get to the point the conditions you have in Canada, where people are told that essentially they are steered in a certain direction by society and indeed by medical professionals, that if poverty is too bad for you, you can always just fucking end your life. There have been stories like that have come out of Canada, however beefed up they may have been by the right-wing press, and I'm sure in some cases they have been. There's no doubt that there is an incentive pushed upon the most vulnerable people in society to basically see themselves as impediments, getting in the way, harming other people. They're a burden. So why not go down that road? And to think that the British society is about to get even fucking worse than I thought it was going to be with this shit. Spectacular stuff. And then, I mean, again, we'll get back to that at some other point. Then we have this story as well, which I thought was worth just mentioning in passing. There was a group called Palestine Action, which broke into an RAF, that's Royal Air Force, base, and spray painted some planes. They spray painted a plane, and for this they are about to be designated terrorists. Literally. For this. For spray painting planes. Planes that we know, by the way, were used in the refueling of Saudi aircraft and American aircraft for the bombing of Yemen. So literally Palestine Action for what is a protest, a spicy protest, to be sure, but a protest, are going to be designated. And we know that because literally the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary of both commands said this. There is a process that has to be gone through, but they are going to be labelled as terrorist. Which means it will be illegal to even say that you support that group, in theory. That hasn't been passed yet. They have not been designated at this point, so we can say, if you do indeed support them, that you can support them. But when they get designated, it will be illegal. You can face, I think it's up to 2 years in prison for something like verbal, non-direct support of terrorism. Super duper. What a fantastically awesome country we live in. Isn't that great? Isn't it awesome that basically we don't have any semblance of free speech in this shithole? Fuck me. Unbelievable shit. Anyway. I promised I'd do the second half of the Tucker Carlson thing. So we're going to do that. Just, you know. Yeah. Now, we got copyright cucked previously, didn't we? So I'm going to try and maybe do something with this. No, that's not right. If I try and fuck with it a little bit, maybe YouTube won't copyright do me. What the fuck? Hang on a minute. What is it doing this? Transform. No, I don't want to rotate. I want to flip it. But not that way. Oh, for fuck's sake. Now it's literally upside down. Right. Okay. Reset transform. Boom. Right. Why are my neighbours being very fucking loud as well? They can fuck off. Oh, I've done it again! Oh, for fuck's sake. Right. Boom. So we don't want to do that. We want to do that. There we go. So now it's backwards. Can we put like a filter on it or something? Edit filters? I literally don't have any filters. How do I add filters? I don't know. I don't know how to do. Hang on a minute. Properties, projector, no. Blending. I don't know what the fuck that means. Anyway, we're just going to play it and see what happens.
It's morally justified to defend yourself, your family, your property, your nation. And so to the extent that you can deter a threat through violence, violence always being the least appealing choice, violence always being, if I can finish, always being a tragedy.
Oh, that's a point. Hang on. Fucking hang on a minute. Talk about turning them into kittens. I don't know that I can turn them into kittens, but I might be able to turn them into strawberries. Use. Yeah, use. Yeah, allow this time. Shut up. Right. If I share the screen. Got it. No, I don't want to send a reaction, do I? What do I want? What do I want to do, Kev? Do I want to? No, I don't want to send a reaction. Hang on. Background and effects. Nature, style, fantasy. My camera is... Oh, that's only for the camera. Why can't I do that on the filters? Strawberry. Appearance? Why is that only for the cat framing? Put them in the center of the frame. Adjust video lighting. Hang on a minute. Why is that only for the thing? That's very annoying. No, basically that doesn't work. Fuck off.
I think you can justify the use of violence in self-defense. That is my personal view, and that applies to me and to the country that I live in. Those are my views. That's not an isolationist view. It's not an anti-Israel view. It's not an anti-Semitic view, with apologies. It is, I think, a pretty common sense view. But my problem is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are...
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms. I'm not interested in killing bad guys. I'm interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had...
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump, and then you
that
said...
is undisputed. There's literally nobody who disputes that fact.
Then why don't you support military action?
Send me memes and I'll put them on the screen.
Action right now against Iran.
We are engaged in military action right now.
Why don't you support offensive military action?
We're bombing the crap out of them. Israel is, and we're supporting them. Israel is.
Okay.
So
why shouldn't the U.S. military defend its own president? I don't understand that.
Look, and it goes back to...
Because you don't really believe it's true, that's why.
Everyone... Okay, nobody disputes it, Tucker. Did you also... Did we land on the moon? What other conspiracies do you not believe? Was 9/11 an inside job? I mean, like, what?
So where...
I'm just saying Donald Trump appeared with Alex Jones, and he does believe those things.
I've asked you the names of these people.
I don't know the names of the Iranian hitmen. I know it because the U.S. military and the intelligence agencies have testified before Congress repeatedly.
And what did they say?
That Iran is trying to murder Donald Trump and has hired hitmen. Do I know the name of the hitmen? No, I'm sorry. And I don't think we do either, because we would apprehend them if we knew their names.
Then why don't you take it seriously enough to support killing the Ayatollah in response to protect our president? But you don't. This doesn't even make any sense. And you're calling me an isolationist. If I believed that was true, I would support military action against the government of Iran.
Okay, that's interesting, because there is literally...
You can't kill our president.
All right, out of 535 members of Congress, I am not aware of one who disputes that Iran is trying to murder Donald J. Trump. That's not even the looniest Democrat doesn't dispute that. So I don't.
The looniest
You're
Democrat.
saying if you believed what is, I think, a fact that they are trying to.
You think it's a fact?
Yes.
What is the fact exactly?
That they've hired hitmen.
In the United States?
Yes.
Americans?
Yeah, he's not in Iran, so they haven't hired hitmen.
No, but are
Iran.
they the hitmen American?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you what, and by the way, I'm not the CIA. I'm not the Department of...
He's very passive aggressive and cunty, isn't he, Tucker Carlson? He's very catty. Cat's got claws.
Fence. I'm telling you what they have told us.
I'm not disputing it. I'm merely saying
we are.
That I'm not. I'm saying the logic train has a massive hole in it. If you believe that's true, then you should, by definition, support killing the people trying to kill our president. But you don't support that.
Now, Tucker,
so I'm wondering what's going on here.
Tucker, you took offense to the word isolationist, and I genuinely don't mean it as a pejorative. I disagree with it. but if you don't like that term, I don't know how else to describe what is a coherent foreign policy that says we're surrounded by two giant nations. By the way, isolationism has long been a school of foreign policy. I believe in self-defense.
I'm not but not into the slurs, the anti-Semite stuff. I just don't like that. I'm telling you what I believe.
But is there a single military action Trump took that you agree with? So did you agree with taking out General Soleimani?
Oh, I don't know. It turned out better than I thought.
It was a war crime, but other than that, yeah, cool.
But I mean,
you said at the time it would lead us to World War III.
I was worried about it. I've seen that.
Well, but that proved not the case.
I was wrong, as I have been many times.
Did you agree with taking out the ISIS caliphate?
Well, if we took out the ISIS caliphate, why are they running Syria right now? And you're for that. Why is that?
What do you mean? I didn't say I'm for that.
You don't seem to have a problem with it.
I didn't say
ISIS is now running Syria. You're like, we'll see.
No, I did.
Look, I mean, I know why.
But by the way, I didn't push Assad out. Assad toppled.
It's hilarious.
You know why I don't
Assad
care?
is bad, but no, ISIS runs Syria, but that's fine. We'll just kind of wait and see on ISIS. Not a big deal.
You know
not a
why?
big deal. They're trying to kill Trump.
Hold on a second. I want to get back. You know why I don't care, and why? And you do your trademark smirky laugh. I know why you don't care.
What are you even talking about?
Ooh, your trademark smirking laugh. You're such a bitch, Cruz. Fucking hell, you're a bitch.
What? Why don't I care?
I don't know why. You tell me. Because you think it's okay because they're not making angry noises or something. But by your own standards, ISIS is so immoral that they must die. But now they're running Syria, and you don't think that we should take military action against the government of Syria? Because why? They're ISIS.
What I said is I don't know how good or bad it'll be. Look, I wasn't pushing Assad out. He fell. He fell on his own, in part because he was heavily supported by Hezbollah. And when Israel took out the Hezbollah leadership, he lost his base of support.
But the current ISIS leadership, you don't think is bad? You can't say it's terrible that ISIS runs a country?
I am concerned about it.
Concerned? Aren't you horrified?
I want to see what they do.
So you got a wait and see attitude on...
Yeah, you know, ISIS. Look, everyone deserves a chance. ISIS won that civil war fair and square. We'll wait and see how they govern. Brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Amazing stuff. I mean, honestly, I did not expect Ted Cruz to come out as a radical centrist on Islamic fucking fundamentalism. Fair. You know what? Inshallah, brother. Inshallah.
On ISIS now?
On the government of Syria, they are not actively, that I am aware of, trying to murder Americans. And that's a real dividing...
ISIS aren't trying to kill Americans. Right.
Line. Are you trying to murder Americans or not?
I'm just saying it's a little weird that we waged this war against ISIS and now they're running a country in the Mediterranean. I think that people would be very, very upset about that, but you don't seem very upset about that. By the way,
did you agree with Trump taking out al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS?
I'm totally opposed to ISIS, and what I care about is results, actually, and if taking out the head of ISIS ends ISIS, I guess I'm for it, but now ISIS runs Syria,
okay,
so I'm wondering how does this work?
I mean, my point is...
At the time, I mean, I've taken so many different positions over the years, some of which have been wrong. I really do my best to be honest and correct if they are, and admit that I was wrong. I'm not one of these people who's like, I've always been consistent. No, my views change all the time because the facts change all the time. You're not going to get consistency from me. You're only going to get sincerity.
Well, I will say this, and look, I believe you're sincere.
Yeah.
But
I'm not God. I'm just some guy watching, trying to figure out the right thing for America.
And I think because you believe you were mistaken, and I agree previously, I think you've overcorrected.
What do you mean overcorrected? I'm worried about turning this mess in Iran into a much larger mess. That's the concern, and
by the way, that's a reasonable worry. Look,
I know it's reasonable, and I know you've been you're ready to call me all these names for asking. You're just asking questions. Yes, I am. So here's my question to you: if the Ayatollah is killed in Iran, and he very well
could, if there's a war.
I have just read in the paper this morning that Israel tried to take him out twice, and Trump told them not to.
I have read that. I don't have independent confirmation one way or the other.
Do you think that they should take him out?
So I actually talked about it. As you know, I do a podcast every week, Verdict with Ted Cruz, and I actually talked about it in the latest podcast. And I said, look, I've seen the reporting that says that Trump...
If Ted Cruz wasn't a big enough wanker, he's also got a podcast. Fucking hell. Like, Ted, you are literally the worst person ever, I think.
Asked them not to take out the Ayatollah. And what I said in the podcast is, I think it's reasonable for them to decide not to try to take him out. What they've done is targeted just about the entire top level of the military, the people that actually conduct the war. I can see an argument that taking out both the head of state and a religious leader could make him a martyr and could cause more problems than it's worth. And by the way, if you take out the Ayatollah, I don't know that the next guy isn't just as bad. And so I am...
What happens to the country?
I don't know, but you mentioned before, and I want to go back to this. You said something like, you, like most other politicians, are engaged in moral terms. And let me be clear, I am talking about national interest. I am talking about protecting America. So there are bad guys on planet Earth that I don't think we should take out, even though they're bad guys.
Good.
I'll call them bad guys, but I'm not willing to use U.S. military force to take them out. In this instance, what Israel is doing is taking out their capacity to build nuclear weapons. Why? Because they judge...
Oh my God, Ted Cruz can pronounce the word. Ted Cruz can say, well, it's nuclear, whatever. He can pronounce the word correctly. And that, I'll be honest with you, it's killing me. Why can Ted Cruz say it, but no other American or seemingly British fucking parliamentarian can say the word? Fucking mental.
Judge the risk is too high if they got nuclear weapons.
I understand that. I mean, I understand that. I think it's in progress. I think it'll probably be achieved, probably with U.S. military support. Who knows? But the president said he's for that.
And by the way, where the military support is most needed is Fordow, which is it's a bunker that's built under a mountain.
Right.
And Israel's taken out most of the rest, like Natanz, which is their big enrichment site. They bombed the hell out of it. Fordow was deliberately built deep into a mountain so that Israel couldn't take it out. And there's an active discussion because the U.S. has bunker buster bombs that are big enough to take out Fordow.
30,000 pounds.
Yeah,
yes.
and Israel doesn't. So the one military piece
nor the aircraft to fly them.
Correct.
Need to.
Right.
But here's, I guess, what bothers me is that I said 2 weeks ago the real goal here is regime change in Iran. It's not.
I don't think that's Trump's goal.
It's your goal. It's Israel's goal. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying it's important to be honest and not lie and not attack people for telling the truth.
So I believe I've been assiduously honest in this, but words matter.
Assiduously
honest.
You
said the real goal here is regime change, and it's your goal. And I want to be clear.
Well, you said it was your goal.
I want to be clear because words matter. Do I support regime change, and would I like a government that doesn't hate America and isn't trying to kill us in Iran? Yes, that's a good outcome. Is that the objective of these military strikes? I don't think necessarily. I don't know if it's Israel's. It's not my objective. My objective is taking out...
the U.S. If Israel decides we're going to decapitate the government and try to foment an uprising against it, should the United States participate in that operation in any way?
Look, I have not called for killing the Ayatollah. And there is... Nations in war generally refrain from attacking and killing heads of state. Now, the Ayatollah doesn't. He's trying to kill Trump. We talked about that.
But we shouldn't punish him for it.
Look, there has been a long-standing... Nations in war have refrained from killing heads of state. I have not publicly called for killing the Ayatollah.
When the fuck has America ever not fucking killed heads of state? Well, apart from the fascist ones that flee there and they live out the rest of their lives. Hello there, Mr. Bolsonaro. You know. But apart from those ones.
Called for is doing whatever is necessary to stop him from getting nuclear weapons. In the first Trump term, what that meant was maximum pressure. So in the first Trump term, I spent a lot of time urging the president to withdraw from the disastrous Iranian nuclear deal that Obama had. President Trump agreed with me. He did that. And then I urged him to end the oil waivers and to sanction the hell out of the country. And it ended up crippling their economy. So Iran at the time was selling 2 million barrels of oil a day. 1 million barrels.
Oh, brilliant. Impoverishing ordinary Iranians. Woo.
Sorry, 1 million barrels of oil a day. When President Trump ended the oil waivers, it cut their sales to 300,000 barrels a day. At the end of the Trump term, the Iranian economy was in shambles. They had massive inflation. I think the regime was teetering. I think it might have fallen. I would use economic sanctions and I would use moral suasion to try to effectuate
if you
regime
topple,
change.
Okay, so you topple the regime and by whatever means, what happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
Of course he doesn't.
I don't know the population.
No.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for...
It's the country you're trying to go to war with, mate. Like, you might want to know something about it. It reminds me a little bit of when... oh, God, who was it that asked Charlton Heston during I think it was the first Iraq War, wasn't it? And asked him, can you name me 3 countries that border Iraq? And he couldn't name one. The country that he was, calling for the American government to bomb the shit out of. Charlton Heston's dead, isn't he? I think. I hope so.
For the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not
okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims...
They're literally shouting at each other. This is amazing. What the fuck?
Country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
Who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them.
Oh, okay.
Israel is bombing them. And hey, why do you do the snide? Oh, okay.
What do you mean? Because this is super high stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other important countries. A lot of the world's energy comes from there.
So let me
you
ask
don't
you,
want
Tucker,
another disaster. You don't want to be
Tucker,
reckless.
The Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great Satan. Do you believe him when he says it's the great Satan?
Of course I believe
Do you think
him.
if the Ayatollah could murder both of us right now that he would? I do. I believe him.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of...
And I would disavow that. Please, Ayatollah, don't kill either of these 2 upstanding individuals. That would be terrible. It would. It would be absolutely terrible.
The Ayatollah.
No, not
and if
good
your
faith.
implication is like, I'm pro-Ayatollah or something.
No, it's not good faith. It's that...
Just saying, you're a lawmaker. You're a powerful person in Washington. This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
I haven't thought... Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts. And to be clear,
I'm not calling for the overthrow of the government.
You put out a newsletter attacking Donald Trump and calling him complicit.
I've never attacked Donald Trump.
Yes, you have. And by the way,
I campaigned for Donald Trump.
Okay, yes.
And this is after anti-Semitism, this is the last refuge. You're an anti-Semite and you hate Trump.
Okay,
I love Trump.
I will read. You put out a whole newsletter saying Trump has abandoned America first. And here's what Trump said in response. Well, considering that I'm the one that developed America first, and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one who decides that. For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. That was directed at you.
Man, you got me. Busted.
No, I'm just saying.
My views, look, I like Trump. I campaigned for Trump. I know Trump. I talked to him last night. I'm not against Trump, and you know that. I think that we should be very careful about entering into more foreign wars that don't help us when our country is dying.
When you say
and our
don't
country
help us,
is dying.
Look, yes, focus on our country. I'm all for it. But the naivete.
You don't even know how much money this costs. You don't know anything about the country whose government you want to overthrow, and you're calling me reckless.
I want to stop a lunatic who wants to murder us from getting nuclear weapons that could kill millions of Americans.
Fair.
You say, I can't see how that benefits America in any way. That is bizarre. And by the way,
bizarre.
Isolationism. Your foreign policy is the foreign policy of Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't work.
I Oh yeah, Barack Obama didn't do any interference. He didn't bomb the shit out of Syria and Libya. No. He was a fucking hawk.
A big leftist. This is so silly. I'm Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Okay. Let me just say one last thing.
So how is your foreign policy different from Jimmy Carter's? Seriously.
Please.
But I asked that question seriously.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Jimmy Carter?
So
what century is this? I am the product
Yeah, he doesn't even want to overthrow any Central American communist regimes.
of the last 25 years, watching carefully, being involved in the periphery, and I see an unending string of foreign policy disasters that have impoverished and hurt our country.
Unending string.
Unending string. They would include Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and our inability to stop the Houthis, by the way, in Yemen, which exposes us as weak, and I grieve over that. So these are failures. You helped preside over some of them as a member of the Senate.
What failures, foreign policy failures, have I presided over?
Well, we were unable to beat Russia in the war that you supported against Russia. You've been spending the last 3 years telling us that Vladimir Putin is evil and we're going to beat him with other people's children, and 1 million of those kids are now...
So now, like, literally, now it's the I suck off Vladimir Putin hour. Cool.
Now dead. You've never apologized for that. That was a full failure.
By the way, look, the level of number of falsehoods you lay out just in one statement are rather
You haven't supported the war against Russia?
Are rather stunning. So the war against Russia was caused, which I have explained at great detail, by Joe Biden's weakness.
But you supported the war.
Now, if you want to talk, we can talk Russia and Ukraine. I'm happy to talk about it.
Do you think that's been a success?
No, it's been an absolute disaster.
Okay, but you supported it. Shouldn't you apologize?
No, you should apologize. I'm not going to engage in the demanding of apologies. So I'm going
But I'm like, that's my point. Is all these failures and no one ever says I'm sorry.
Matter, or do you just throw out like if you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay, I do. I want to know why that seems like a true disaster for the United States. You have supported it.
Do you believe Joe Biden's weakness caused the war in Ukraine?
I think Joe Biden's aggression caused it.
His aggression? What aggression?
He demanded that Ukraine join NATO. How does that help the United States?
Jesus
It's a
Christ.
terrible idea, and I have vigorously opposed Ukraine joining NATO.
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to know what caused the war? Look, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in facts. You're like, okay.
Okay, tell me. It seems super obvious.
These two need to fuck, I swear, man. The tension in this room is too much.
You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. That is a tick of mine that is wrong, and I mean this with sincerity. I'm sorry to do that to you. I just think it seems so obvious that sending Kamala Harris to the NATO Security Conference to say you're going to join NATO is what triggered the invasion days later.
Okay, so can I? This will take a few minutes to lay out because it's complicated, but I think the facts matter. I think two things caused the war in Ukraine. Number one, I think Biden's incredible weakness and the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, I believe we need to leave Afghanistan, but not with the incompetence that led to 13 servicemen and women being murdered by terrorists there.
Kev, is it bad that I thought Kuwait was a city in Iraq until just now when I checked what country borders Iraq? A little bit, because it does suggest you don't quite understand the first Gulf War very well. Because that was about Iraq invading Kuwait, which wouldn't make sense if it was part of Iraq. That would just be its own territory. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, compared to Americans who, hang on, did we? I don't know. I didn't bookmark it, but they were asked to put on the map where they thought Iran was, and I think something like 24% were able to actually pick Iran out on a map. Quite a lot went with Ukraine, which is especially brilliant, because the maps of Ukraine have been on the TV over the last few years. So you think they'd be able to be like, no, that bit's Ukraine. Okay, cool. Moving on. Where else in the world could this be? But no, they a lot of them went with Ukraine because,
The way Biden did that was disastrous, and I think our enemies looked to the commander-in-chief and said, this president is weak. And when that withdrawal was so disastrous, I said publicly at the time, the chances of Putin invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold.
Right.
But secondly, and this is critically
important.
Well,
I agree, that was awful, the withdrawal.
And it was a major cause of, our enemies all said, hey, this president is weak. And so it invited, and by the way, look, I despise war, And I think we...
Really? Because you seem to quite enjoy other people's kids being killed in wars. That you don't seem to have a problem with at all, actually. Rather in favour of it.
Weakness and isolationism produces war because it invites aggression from our bad guys. It's why I agree with Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. The best way you avoid war is being strong enough that your enemies don't want to mess with you. But let's get back to Ukraine and Russia.
Do you agree with him surreptitiously arming Iran? Committing technically what amounts to high treason through, Oliver North selling weapons to Iran and then using that money to fund the Contras, the fascist death squad? No? Okay.
Look, Putin didn't wake up 2 years ago and decided he wanted to invade Ukraine. He's wanted to invade Ukraine for decades. Putin has referred to the collapse of the Soviet Union as, quote, the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century.
Don't make me agree with him.
And Putin has long been explicit. His desire is to reassemble the old Soviet Union and, in fact, reassemble the Russian Empire that was even bigger than that. If you want to reassemble the Soviet Union, the natural place to start is Ukraine.
Do you really believe that Putin has territorial designs on Eastern Europe?
Yes.
What countries?
He has said that you can go and read his... Hold on. I don't want to lose the narrative of what happened, so we can go back and do that, but I don't want to lose telling the story first. So let me explain this, and then if you want to go back, we can take all sorts of digressions, but just give me a couple of minutes to lay out the facts of what happened. He has wanted to invade Ukraine a long time. And he's done it before. In 2014, he invaded Ukraine, invaded Crimea. When Barack Obama was president, he invaded the southern portion. He did not invade the rest of the country. Why? And the reason is the principal source of revenue for Russia is oil and gas, and the natural gas pipelines run right through the country of Ukraine, and he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to get gas to Europe.
Right.
So in 2015, Putin started a project called Nord Stream 2.
Did anything happen in 2014?
In terms of what?
Wasn't there a coup in Ukraine run by the Obama administration?
Let me finish telling. I told you we'll take lots of digressions in a second. Let me finish telling the narrative. 2015, Putin began building Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 is an undersea pipeline that runs from Russia to Germany. The entire purpose of Nord Stream...
And I personally blew it up. I did, honest.
2 is when it was completed and turned on, it would let Russia circumvent Ukraine and get its gas straight to Europe.
Hey-o!
In 2019, Nord Stream 2 was almost complete. And the conventional wisdom in Washington was, this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. I didn't believe that. So I drafted sanctions legislation that was targeted to stop the pipeline. My legislation passed the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed the House, and Donald Trump signed it into law.
Can I just ask, why wouldn't you want Germany to have cheap energy?
Because it empowers
Carlson, you're such a bitch, mate.
Russia. And I believe in making our enemies weaker and our friends stronger.
Has blowing up Nord Stream made Germany stronger?
Not being dependent on Russia has made Germany stronger.
So you think Germany is stronger now than it was 4 years ago?
I think not being dependent on Russia. Germany has all sorts of problems, and many of them are domestic to their own politics. Hold on, let me finish. I'm trying to...
No, but what you're saying, it doesn't... Germany seems so much weaker now that its energy costs have spiked and the manufacturing sector is collapsing because of that.
Let me finish. I'm focused on America's interest. I don't want Russia stronger because I believe Russia is our enemy. You and I disagree on that. We can talk about that. But I want our enemies weaker. I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I want our enemies weaker. I don't want Europe dependent on Russia. I don't want Putin rich with oil and gas revenues and able to invest in his military and pose a threat to America. So the sanctions legislation that I authored, it passed. Putin stopped building Nord Stream 2 literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law. He signed it, if I remember right, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. Putin stopped construction at 6:45 p.m. So the sanctions legislation worked, and it killed the pipeline. The pipeline lay dormant for over a year, just a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean. Joe Biden came into office. He was sworn in on January 20th, 2021. Putin resumed deep-sea construction of Nord Stream 2 4 days later, January 24th. He did so because Biden had foreshadowed weakness on this issue. That foreshadowing was accurate because several months later, Biden formally waived the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and let Putin complete the pipeline. In January of 2022, I forced a vote on the Senate floor to reimpose sanctions on Nord Stream 2. The week of the vote, President Zelensky in Ukraine publicly called on the Senate, please pass this sanctions legislation. It is the last best hope of stopping Russia from invading Ukraine. At the same time, the government of Poland put out a formal statement from the foreign ministry to the Senate, calling on the Senate to pass my sanctions legislation, and said, if you do not, Putin will invade Ukraine. The day of the vote, Joe Biden came to Capitol Hill. It's the first time in his presidency he had done that. He went to the Democrat senators' lunch, and he personally lobbied them on this issue, not any other issue. This was his number one issue that he came to lobby them on. They came out of that lunch. Every Democrat had voted with me twice against Nord Stream 2. 44 Democrats flipped their vote. They voted in favor of Russia, in favor of Putin, and 4 weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine. That was the direct cause of the war. And if Trump had been president, there would be no war in Ukraine.
So may I ask,
I don't know if that retelling of it was true, but he's a very boring man. It's whatever. Yeah, whatever.
of course, disagree with your analysis completely, but I want to be respectful.
Okay.
And
So tell me what you disagree with.
it's such a long conversation. I've spent the last couple of years on this, and I just respectfully disagree with your analysis. But I don't doubt your sincerity, that you believe that Putin is our enemy, that Western Europe should not be allowed to use Russian energy. I mean, you seem to really believe these things. My question is about results, because I think it's relevant to what we're seeing now in Iran. You look back after having you personally voted to send billions and billions and billions of U.S. tax dollars to Zelensky to support his civil service and the war against Russia and all this stuff. Can you say that what you did worked?
So I can say what I did personally, sanctioning Nord Stream 2 worked and prevented a war. And if Trump had still been there, if the sanction had been in effect, there would be no war. I'm in favor of avoiding wars.
But once the war broke out, you voted to fund it to the tune of billions and billions and billions.
And to be clear,
and did that work?
Okay, to be clear, what I voted for the initial tranche of funding, and then I voted against the subsequent one. So it hasn't worked. So I've been.
So you've been fucking useless, is basically the point. Fantastic. You turn them into strawberries. How? Show me. By the way, if you're enjoying whatever the fuck this is I have on the screen, if you're enjoying my content here, I'm not ignoring yours specifically. I'm ignoring most things. Topless man thinks what?
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to know what caused the war? Look, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in facts. You're like, okay.
Okay, tell me. It seems super obvious.
These two need to fuck. Yeah, they do. No, I'll stick by it. I will die on that hill. I'll die on that hill. Yeah, no, they need to fuck. These two need to fuck. And you know what? To my eternal shame, if they put it on the internet, I'd watch it. I just out of like a morbid, detestable curiosity, I'd have to have a little peek. Like, there's no way I could wank to it. I couldn't. Like, I may never get an erection again. But it's a risk I'm prepared to take, because it's fucking, like, it's like watching a car crash or something, right? Like, let's be honest, nobody watches NASCAR because they think it's entertaining. They're waiting for the crash. Okay? No one watches the Olympics. They're waiting for someone to flip off and break their neck or snap a leg or something. Everyone, come on now. Be honest with me. You all fucking do it. And this is the sex version of that. Okay? Fact. Anyway, yeah, you can support my stream in the form of bits and subs. And bits messages, super chats. You can become a member.
I don't want to do this anymore.
You can scare the shit out of me like that. Thank you, Tess, who says, "Alright, Kev. You alright, Tess? What's happening, girl? You alright?"
In between, I haven't been on the full Ukraine, full-throated hawk side or the anti from...
Well, there's only so much fucking room in your throat, isn't there, for a tiny orange todge. You fucking spineless gimp.
Day one, I voted for the initial tranche of funding because I wanted Russia to lose. I think the Biden administration administered it in a horrible way. I think they wasted a ton of money. And I think what they did was actually incoherent because they were funding both sides of the war. I was very vocal and among other things, flooding $100 million to Iran, which was used, among other things, to help the nuclear program, but also to make drones that Russia used to fight.
So here's my concern. I'm not going to defend the Biden administration. Really did a lot to wreck the United States.
Yeah, did the most damaging administration
at the end,
in history.
where we sit
in history. In history. Honestly, Ted Cruz, just absolutely terms of service yourself. Thank you, Baron von Coxlap, with 5 months. Much love to you, friend. And thank you, Mr. Matt Raymond, with 100 bitty bits. We're on a hype train. If we get to level 2 of the hype train, I will finger Ted Cruz. I'm just saying it right now. I will finger Ted Cruz. In Cancun, probably. So you'll have to probably wait until it gets a little bit cold in Texas, but you know. Just saying. Is Jesus their audience? Unfortunately, we're all their audience right now. And that's sad.
now, Russia is stronger. It's closely allied long-term with China.
I don't know that Russia's stronger. I don't think that's right.
Okay. I think it's pretty obvious that it is. But it's certainly not destroyed.
Is it stronger? Russia's stronger. Because, like, I was absolutely convinced. I was absolutely convinced that Russia would roll over Ukraine. And not only have they not been able to do that, but they've been held off by a much, much smaller country, a much weaker country. Admittedly, with the help of Western, schmozzle, but they had that in the first place. If one may remember, in the halcyon days of 2019 or whatever, the whole Ukraine Gate thing was Donald Trump trying to withhold the support militarily that America had been giving to Ukraine in order to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden, who apparently was running for office even though he wasn't even running for office. But whatever. So they always had that. Yeah, they gave... Well, he was literally the was it 3-day special military operation? Or special military action, or whatever they were calling it, to denazify Ukraine. And 3 years later, it's turned into World War One. Fucking, trench warfare. Absolutely awful. How the fuck you can possibly suggest that Russia is in a stronger position than it was before? What are you talking about? It's obviously not. Like, Ukraine's weaker too, sure. But that was the point that I think I and a lot of people made. Whilst I support Ukraine's position in terms of defending themselves against hostile invasion, the West didn't give a fuck about Ukraine. The West wanted them to weaken Russia. And damn Ukraine, who cares? That's why I always do the joke about them being temporarily accepted into the white people club. Because as soon as it comes round to, like, eventually there'll be peace there, right? Or at least a cessation of conflict, even if technically peace never technically happens or whatever. And then Ukraine will need to be rebuilt. And all of a sudden, the funding for Ukraine will disappear. The West never gave a shit about Ukraine. They wanted to weaken a geopolitical enemy in Russia. And that's what will happen.
And it's allied long-term with China.
Maybe. There's no doubt Biden's foreign policy drove Russia into the arms of China, and that's concerning. Okay. They also have a long history of animosity.
Western Europe is weaker and more in debt. The United States is weaker and much more in debt. Hold on. So you and I are agreeing on a lot. We're agreeing. Here's my question. Have you questioned any of your previous assumptions? Did you play any role in this at all? Are you responsible at all?
Of course, and like you said...
What have you learned?
Like you said you've changed your mind.
Yeah,
I voted for the first funding of the Ukraine war, and I voted against every subsequent funding stream because it wasn't working. And I looked at what was happening and said, this is not working. And had the money been spent in an intelligent way and not wasted, and had it been successful, I might have been willing to fund more. But it wasn't successful, so I voted no. And the war's going to end. Look, President Trump campaigned on ending the war.
And he's
The
been
return
well.
of the
He
sovereign
campaigned on ending it in one day.
Get that finger dirty.
Good lord. He campaigned on ending it in one day, and we're now at what day? What? How many days has he been in? 100 days or some shit at this point? Like, he hasn't ended the war because he's a fucking idiot. Thank you, Baron von Coxlap, for gifting a sub to Brody G99, and for 500 bidibits. We're on level 2 of the hype train, so I've got to go and finger Ted Cruz. So there's that.
I think he's frustrated because Putin has been less than eager to reach a deal to end the war, but it's going to end. You're not going to see another
Do you
dollar
think
coming from
Zelensky
Congress.
wants to end the war?
I think Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think his Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any.
How the fuck was that his fault, though? Trump and Vance came out of that badly.
Leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think he behaved like a pompous ass. And I think he is
God, you're a Trump cocksucker. You really are.
unrealistic. I think Zelensky spends his time with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, and he believed he was going to the Oval Office as a resist figure. And I think he's doing real damage to his country right now.
You described him many times as a hero.
I don't recall ever using the word hero. I do. Say, look, I'm not a Zelensky cheerleader.
You're a piece of shit is what you are. You blow with the wind.
And I'm not in the business of saying everyone we support has to be a saint and everyone we oppose has to be a villain. I'm not in the morality game. I'm in the U.S. interest game. Why did I want Nord Stream 2 stopped? Because it would strengthen Russia, and Russia's our enemies. It's entirely U.S. interest.
Did you support the industrial sabotage against it, blowing it up?
So I think you believe America did that. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay, I think the chances of that are zero.
You think Russia did it?
No,
Russia.
I think Ukraine did it. Okay, so I don't know. So I don't know who did it. In terms of the theories that have been put out there, the idea that Russia blew up their own pipeline never made any sense to me at all. That just I can't even articulate why they would do that. The idea that Biden did that. Look, I could see it being in U.S. interest to do that, to blow up Nord Stream 2. I just think Biden was too weak. I don't believe Joe Biden.
But are you in? I guess you in.
So that leads
the Norwegians, the Ukrainians, NATO, whatever.
Look, that leads me to you know who benefits, and it leads me to think either the Ukrainians blew it up or Ukraine's allies. I don't think Biden did because Biden was so weak. I don't think he would give the order. I find that implausible.
But you're in favor of it.
Look, I was in favor of stopping it. I think blowing it up was a good thing. So I'm supportive of that, but I don't think America did that. I don't think Biden gave that order.
But in
I
general,
could see Trump giving that order, but he wasn't in office.
Yeah, and you think that the largest act of industrial sabotage in history helped our allies in Western Europe or other fellow NATO members?
Look, I gotta say, I don't understand. For some reason, you are really invested in defending Russia, and I don't get that. I'm not attacking you with.
Well, you are, and it's the same. Like, he's paid and bought and paid for by Russia. You're bought and paid for by Israel. That's the way it goes. Why are you surprised by that, Theodore? Or should I say Raphael, because that is actually your name.
That I'm genuinely, I don't get why you're so passionate about defending Russia.
Actually, I was defending Western Europe, the home of my ancestors, and that...
No. You're American, mate. You can fuck right off.
Tripling their...
We don't fucking claim scum like you.
...energy costs and destroying their industrial base. Not like... You just accused me of being an anti-Semite, an isolationist, and a Russia lackey. I've not called you a neocon once, which you are, but I haven't...
That's absurd. Yeah.
Well, hang on. You can't say, I've never called you a neocon, which you are, because you've just called him a neocon then. What the fuck?
Those neocons that oppose the Iraq War
right.
That's dishonest.
But I haven't called you that because
you just said, which you are, you just called that.
Okay.
Called me that. You just did.
You did.
I guess what I'm saying is you're triggered because I use name calling.
Triggered.
I get it. I was triggered when you called me names. And I'm triggered once again that you're calling me a Russia defender when in fact I'm defending Western Europe. And I don't think that you
Do you think Putin's our enemy?
he's literally our enemy. You are funding a war against him.
But do you think he is our? No, you're saying we're his enemy. Do you think Putin is our enemy?
I think it is a tragedy that your policies, specifically yours, helped drive Putin into the arms of China, forming a bloc that's larger than us.
So you won't answer that question.
I don't. He is literally our enemy right now. That is a tragedy for the United States.
No, you're saying, but you won't say he is our enemy. And look, like
I don't know in what sense. I don't want to be enemies with Russia. It doesn't help us at all. It may help some people in the United States, but in general,
let me be clear,
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be at war with Russia. I don't think it is in our interest to be at war with
aligned
Russia.
with China. That is a disaster.
But listen,
Thank you everyone for the hype train. Much love to you, honestly. It's gonna be some tight months because I was away, or tight weeks I suppose, because I was banned for my disgusting heterophobia. But you helped me get through, chat, and I love you.
and I want Russia and China attention, so I agree with you there. But I think Putin is a KGB thug. I think he is a bad man. Now, I don't want to go to war with him over that.
Okay.
But I'm not naive, and like I watched your episode.
He's a bad man. Okay.
Look, I watched.
He did invade Ukraine, my dude. Like, the fuck? Look, I know you're on board with that, but like, not many other people are.
Your episode where you went to the Russian grocery store, and I'm
was that disloyal? Do you think?
It was just weird.
It was
like
weird.
A promo video.
It was weird, mate. Yeah, it was.
For Russia, and I don't understand. I'm not attacking you when I ask why, because I'm genuinely like, I don't get.
Like when you called me and said something, you weren't attacking me, you were just noticing.
No,
but may I ask you a question? So here, well, let me just answer yours by saying the United States, the Biden administration, with your help, full support, began this war on Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine. And one of the things they kicked Russia out of SWIFT, out of the international financial system. Yeah. And my first response was, this is going to really hurt the US dollar, which it has. And I hope someday we can have a conversation about that. It's really, really hurt the one thing that we needed, which was to retain dollar supremacy. So I was interested in the economic condition.
By the way, that's a reasonable point and a serious conversation.
I'm aware. And
but I can agree with you. Like
no. But I was accused of being. I think it's weird that you went to a Russian grocery store and said it was prosperous. No, my point is
it looked like a commercial. It looked like a commercial.
It did.
Wonderful.
It actually
did. It was an argument against the efficacy of sanctions. Sanctions against Russia, which you casually and enthusiastically imposed, scoring a little moral victory every time, had no material effect that helped the United States. Russia is backstopped by China, and I recommend that you go there and see it. It is way nicer than Washington, D.C. Way nicer. To me, that's a tragedy. I was horrified and angry at my leaders, including you. It's like, I want to live in a country that's nice, with low food costs and no homeless people.
All right,
I don't understand why that's too much to ask.
So do
Instead, I get wars with Iran.
Okay, so massive amounts of public housing then, Tucker? Do you support massive amounts of public housing? Municipal housing, Tucker? Yeah? Welcome aboard, comrade.
No, I just want lower food costs. How's that?
So, look, it's a weird argument that you do often, which is, listen, things are crappy in America. Liberals have done bad things to America, so we shouldn't worry about any enemies around the world.
Republican senators. Republicans don't care about us. They're focused on other countries.
You wrote that,
and our country is dying, and you don't care because you're focused on Iran or Putin.
So you believe that I don't care about America? I guess you believe Donald Trump doesn't either. Like nobody cares.
I believe that your focus is way too on other countries. It's way too focused outward. The money that you send abroad could be used here and should be.
What money that I send abroad, by the way, I emphatically agree with.
How much did you send to Ukraine? You don't even know.
I emphatically agree with Donald Trump's, for example, dramatically slashing USAID. I think the only reason we should be deploying that is to benefit U.S. interest, national security interest, and keep Americans safe. And so.
How much did you vote to send to Ukraine?
Look, you're in about $80 billion.
$80 billion.
Yeah. So you're in.
That is quite a lot, Ted. Also, you by cutting funding for USAID, you killed a lot of people. I know you don't care, but like I just want history to view you in the true light that is you, Ted Cruz, with your hands covered in blood.
you love just giving these broad characterizations that are not accurate. I'm genuinely puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin...
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer. I think he's a liar. And I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire, and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba. I hate communists. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad.
Oh, Ted, you're such a moron. Oh, I hate communists. My dad was tortured in Cuba under, the US-backed fascist dictator. Who, as I mentioned earlier, with fascist dictators who go and live out their life in America, guess where Batista went after the regime fell? He went and lived in Florida for the rest of his fucking life. We'll go back and listen to that again, because that's
Communism is
very special.
I'm genuinely...
It's a very special sentence, he says.
Puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin...
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer. I think he's a liar. And I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire, and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba. I hate communists. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad. My aunt was imprisoned and tortured by Castro. I hate communists. I think communism...
Okay, but Putin isn't a communist, obviously, you fucking idiot. You stupid bastard.
Is evil. And so I think there is a value to... There is nobody who stands up to communists.
Also, the fact that your dad raised you tells me that, look, I'm not saying anyone deserves to be tortured. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that anyone deserves to be tortured. I'm just saying, if you raise Ted Cruz, if you're such a shitty parent that you raise someone as feckless, spineless, ballless as Ted Cruz, you're as close to deserving torture as it gets without getting there, because no one deserves to be tortured, as previously stated. So. Just saying.
China more in the Senate than I do, because I think they're evil. Do I want to go to war with China? Of course not. That would be ridiculous, but I think we have all sorts of tools to stand up to our enemies. And I think China is engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States.
Okay.
They're trying to
We're so all over the map where your family in prison in Cuba and China and all this stuff. I agree with you. I'm totally opposed to communism, always have been. I don't think that Putin loves us. I'm distressed by the moral condition of most leaders around the world, most of them. They all kill people. I'm against that. I'm just saying, I wish the focus here was more on the United States. Can I say something?
I actually don't agree with that statement, they all kill people. There's a moral relativism. So I don't think Donald Trump is a murderer. He doesn't kill people.
He literally does. He literally has murdered lots of people. His drone strikes have killed more than, well, any president previously. What are you talking about?
Don't have
calling Donald Trump a murderer.
You just said world leaders all kill people, and there's a moral relativism.
I'm hardly...
Also, Ted, you said all world leaders kill people. You are a legislator. You ought to really know that killing and murder are two different things. Okay? All murders are killings. Not all killings are murder. Murder is an unlawful killing. You can kill in perfectly lawful ways. Be it in war, self-defense, defense of property. In certain parts of the world is considered self-defense, and therefore things like castle doctrine and stand your ground and blah blah blah. Like, there are perfectly legal ways in which one can kill. Unbelievable.
Moral relativist.
But that statement was the essence
I'm an
of...
anti-Semite, an isolationist, a moral relativist. Okay. No, I'm not.
Did you just say world leaders all kill people?
I'm saying I'm against killing people in general.
So
and hyperventilating about how Putin was in the KGB or whatever. I just want to serve American
group
interests,
of
and
crows
pushing
is
into
also
China is
a
not in our
murder,
interest
that
at
is
all.
correct.
And you helped do it, and you haven't apologized. And you
That's
should.
good. And by the way, you're the cheerleader. I helped drive him into China.
You
It's
did.
a complete lie.
You funded the war against him.
No, I authored the legislation that shut down Nord Stream 2 that prevented
And
the
now,
war.
so now it's not even just a war against Russia, it's a war specifically just against Putin. God, you're a baldicker, Carlson.
And if Trump had still been in the White House, we would have had the war. And look, the comment you made, the reason things like moral relativism are so dangerous, oh, everyone kills people. No, there is a difference. The
hardly a
United
moral
States, we
relativism.
don't have concentration camps. We don't torture and murder people. You look.
Yes, you do. You literally fucking do. Guantanamo Bay, you remember that place in Cuba? You know Cuba, the place where your parents were tortured by fascists. You're now the fascists running a torture camp in Cuba today.
Look at China, where they've got 1 million prisoners in concentration camps. You look at Putin, where he's got prisoners in Siberia. He tortures.
America has the largest per capita and actual prison population in the history of our species. Just saying.
And murders his political opponents. Donald Trump doesn't do that. America doesn't do that. And by the way,
What are you
most
even
other
talking
countries
about?
don't do that.
I see the game. It's like, I'm
No,
distressed.
you're the one playing a game.
I'm distressed.
No, I'm responding with facts. You don't like the facts.
I don't even know what facts you're talking about. I'm not saying that Trump puts people in concentration camps. I campaign for Trump. I love Trump.
So did I.
Okay. So this has nothing to do with Trump. I'm merely saying
When you said every world leader kills people, it puts
just
them
want
all
more
in the
emphasis on what's happening inside the country. That's it.
Is there a
That's
moral
it.
difference between America and our enemies? Is there
Are
a
you
moral difference between
joking? Of
America?
course.
And what is it? Articulate it.
I'm
It's
American.
valuable to say why. Why are we a better country founded on better values than China?
I'll tell
What's
you.
the difference?
You're not. You just aren't. What are you talking about? Like, if you want to take an absolutely literal interpretation of everything written in the Declaration of Independence, yeah, cool. But that's never, ever, ever been achieved in America. You aren't a better country. You just aren't.
I'll tell you why.
And I know
Because the whole purpose of America is to protect the God-given rights that each person possesses by virtue of being created by God.
Amen.
By being human. That's the point of our founding document.
Except if you're a bit brown and then we'd send you to an El Salvadorian torture chamber. But, you know. Cool.
And no other country articulates that in the way that we do. And that's what I love about America. My family's been here a long time. I'm never leaving. So I really love the country.
Well, thank fuck for that.
Despite going to a Russian grocery store, despite asking you questions about AIPAC, I love America is the truth. And I love Trump. So, but I just want more emphasis on America. That's it.
We know you don't love Trump because we know what you said privately. So, you know.
emphatically agree with America first. I think Donald Trump does as well. And I think his foreign policy has been vigorously protecting that. And I agree with
Israel
Good.
first.
Well,
That's
I appreciate your taking all this time.
That's it.
And I know you didn't mean it. When you call me those names. Thank you, Senator.
Unbelievable, man. Fucking hell. Well, that was fucking painful, wasn't it? Absolute load of shit. I mean, honestly, I don't think either of them come out of that looking particularly great. Yeah, very, very fucking strange. Anyway, let's do some. Let's get rid of all of these for a start off. Right, where are we at? Boom, and then last one. Ah, that's not the right one at all. Where the there you are, you cunt. Ooh, noises. Anyway, so hang on, we can right. Give me a second, everyone. Reset transform, boom. Because presumably this won't get fucking copyright cuckhead. Right, so two dickheads in their own way have laundered the MAGA movement for the left. And I'll probably get into this a little bit more as we go along. But Cenk Uygur has absolutely moved to the right. We all know that. He's very anti-union when it comes to his own workforce trying to unionise. We've been through that in the past. Also, He's obviously broadcast live from the Polymarket studios. And did you know Polymarket, the very, very weird, shitty crypto gambling site? You know what you can gamble on in that on that site? If I can find the fucking thing, where are we? There you go. On Polymarket, you can bet on US military action in Iran before July. Cool. I'm so glad that you're partnered with this very, very ethical company, Cenk. I'm so glad that you've chosen your partners really, really well here. Excellent. Fucking hell. Very ethical. Anyway, and Krystal Ball, while she's actually done the opposite, in fact, she's pivoted to the left in recent times. She, lest we forget, did a show with Saga and Jetty, in which Saga and Jetty would repeat the most crazy, fucked up, right-wing conspiracy theory bullshit, and Krystal Ball would essentially just nod along and go, well, I'm not sure about that, but the Democrats are bad. And that was it. That was there was no pushback ever from, or not ever, right? There was very little pushback. There was rarely pushback. She absolutely helped launder a lot of MAGA ideas for a more progressive audience as well. They're both guilty of this. And so, we have a meeting of the two Spider-Men. But one Spider-Man has at least become less Spider-Man-y. Okay, the euphemism doesn't really work. Oh, not euphemism. The comparison doesn't work. So, Krystal Ball has moved to the left. Cool. Your man has moved to the right. What the fuck is that? Oh, God almighty. I look like that Big Samoan lad. I look like a kind of white version of the Big Samoan lad. Or, if the Turin Shroud was of a fatty. Fatty Jesus Turin Shroud is what I'm getting from that. You know. Anyway, that's... yeah, and they got together to talk about the stuff and that, and it's... Yeah. It got spicy.
You have this fantasy land that Trump was like, oh, the left thinks Abrego Garcia, I've treated him wrong. I surrender, left.
The only time he has been constrained is through the left and liberals banding together and going through the court system and public pressure. That's it. That's all we've seen.
Is MAGA a fascist movement? Just give me a yes or no.
That's an absurd framing, Kyle. That's mainstream media framing.
You can't say that MAGA is fascist. You can't. Wait. You really don't believe MAGA is fascist?
I am against Trump. Totally. Okay? But why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk, talk about a straw man. I mean, you're making up stuff I never said. Come
What's
on.
the point of coming on here if I can't answer your
Cenk,
questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
so you want to talk about
Christ,
straw men?
Krystal.
You're inventing
it's a
things on the
mistake
spot.
talking to you guys. It's a mistake.
Yeah, they're going to ask you difficult questions, and you don't like that, do you? So this is Cenk's usual playbook. Don't actually answer the question. Moan about being asked the question.
Welcome, Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks. We appreciate you joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, oh, you want to explain? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Cenk reached out to Kyle and I this week and said, hey, I think we got some things to talk through.
No. We won't have this. Brody, please don't. No, not Brody. Sorry, Alex Roybas. Especially because you're a fucking, you're a moderator. No. We're not having this. I will actually delete your comment, I think, on this one occasion. I don't usually go as far as that, but I think I will. If I can find out. How do I delete a comment? You say, what is it? Oh my fucking God, I hope ICE deports Cenk's ass. That's not on. That isn't on, okay? No, oh shit. No, fuck. Unban. I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. Sorry, Alex, I accidentally banned you there, and I didn't mean to. I meant to just delete the comment. Anyway, the comment has now been deleted, along with the other comments that you made today. Apologies. Yes. You might have been joking or whatever, but we don't do the... Oh, I hope ICE gets them. No. And we don't do the... Well, the people of Appalachia voted for Trump, so I'm fine with them being poor. Ha ha ha. Fuck you. Like, we're not doing that. Oh yeah, I need to remoderate, don't I? Sorry. Okay. Unmod. Mod. There you go. Hopefully you are now a moderator again. I think. Anyway. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing those jokes. We're not engaging in that kind of thing, okay? Done. Moving on.
Can I, let's have a conversation. So we said, sure, let's do that. And this kind of follows on the heels of a discussion/debate that you and I had back in December, where,
I still can't vibe with Carl Kalinski's blonde hair. I know it's been around a while now and people have already commented and so on and so forth, but it's just not. It's not. No. Come on now. You're not in a boy band in 1999. Just stop. Oh, for fuck's sake. Talking about stopping. The fuck is this? God almighty. What, you've murdered me. You've straight up murdered me. Fucking crikey. Ooh. Please tell me Cenk loses. Well, from the clips I've seen of him, he does not come across well. I'll say that. But whether he loses, I mean, that's up for debate. Because it's always debate isn't supposed to be about winning and losing. This is sort of part of the problem I have with fucking internet blood sporty type shit. Is that it's supposed to be about enlightenment or education or entertainment to some extent. It's not really supposed to be about getting brutally owned and wrecked in the free marketplace of ideas. That's fucking silly. Especially because, let's be honest, right? Whenever you go into a debate, most people are so partisan that they'll say their person won regardless.
Stop it. Get some help.
Destiny's fans will always go into a Destiny debate and say Destiny won. Vosh's fans will always go into a debate with and say Vosh won. It's always that thing. It doesn't matter who they are. They'll say, "Oh, my guy won. My guy wrecked him. My guy did this." It's stupid machismo shite, really. But But you're not alone in that
Stop
at all.
It.
By the way, Matt,
Get some
that's
help.
the way that most people view these things, and that's sort of why it was a mistake. And by it, I mean the internet. The internet was a mistake. It has not helped humanity onto a new plane of intellectual discourse. It has brought us further into the gutter from which we will never rise. Thank you to Navigator BR, who says, "All hail our saviour Kurt Logan." Nice callback, by the way. He is one who will save us from the damnation on the earth. I think you might be bigging me up slightly too much there, Navigator. What I might be able to do is renationalise some railways, maybe at best. That's probably about all I can achieve, though, I think. And thank you, Maranaka, with 26 months. Much love to you both. 57 and 26 months between you. That is a lot of months. That is too many months. What about the cats, though, Kev? What about the cats? What? Yeah, cats are good. I'm pro-cat.
The launching point, and you can, correct me if you don't think that this is a fair characterization of this conversation, but the launching point was a tweet that you had put out expressing some optimism about the Trump administration. So we can put that tweet up on the screen from Cenk to refresh everybody's memory about where we started.
I'm so optimistic. I'm going to suck off Elon Musk and pretend that we're going to work together to cut the Pentagon budget. Flash forward to a few days later, the Pentagon budget spirals massively under Trump because we all knew it was going to fucking happen.
You said in November 29th, 2024, I've been trying to figure out why I'm more optimistic now than I was before the election. Even though I was so against the guy who won, I know.
Yeah, you're so against him. Not a big turnout for Hetero Awesome Fest in Boise. And this is Boise, Idaho. Like, that is basically like, that's exactly where I would expect Hetero Awesome Fest to be held. Also besmirching Cotton Eye Joe with this nonsense. A song, which I think I've mentioned before, is written about the transmission of sexual diseases. Literally.
Oh, now, MAGA is not my mortal enemy, neither is the extreme left. My mortal enemy is the establishment, and they have been defeated. So over the course of that conversation, you explained to me that the reason you felt optimistic was really two reasons. Number one, as you say there, the establishment was defeated. And number two, you felt that the elements
of the establishment was defeated with the former president and Marco Rubio. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely not the establishment at all. I want to elect a billionaire to be president because I'm anti-establishment. Get fucked, mate.
Populist right and the bros would hold Trump accountable. And it kind of built to this crescendo where he actually turned to the camera and said, listen, guys, in a little while, you're going to be able to say whether I...
Well, to be fair, Kyle doesn't really appear much in this, right? This is the portion of the whatever debate, and it's mostly... Oh, sorry, I should actually... I read that in my head, and I didn't read it to everyone else. Right. 255 / Clem H. Fandango, and yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango, says, I mentioned this in the Discord, but why are you ignoring Kyle a bit? I mean, you've even got him framed out of the shot, because he doesn't really talk much during this. This is literally it's not Kyle, Cenk versus Krystal virtually all the way. I think he only speaks like twice, and he doesn't really say a lot. I mean, I don't know did he kind of wife guide a little bit? He kind of like, my wife, like he kind of did a little bit of that, which I don't mind, but like, yeah, she can look after herself. She's a strong media person herself in her own right. Yeah.
I was right or whether Krystal was right. Let's go ahead and play that portion as a refresher. That is element number 2.
I want to address something to the audience. Can I?
Sure.
Is this my camera here? Okay, yeah. So right-wing populists, it is now your job to prove Krystal wrong. Okay.
Go out and do it.
And what a spectacular job they've done. His one plan is massive tax cuts for the rich, deport all the brown people, and war with Iran. Yeah, this has gone super well, Cenk. Well done.
Do it, y'all.
So she doesn't believe you. And by the way, almost no one on the left, other than me and Anna, believe you guys that you actually want to cut the Pentagon. And that you could pressure Elon Musk and Donald Trump to cut the Pentagon. So are you going to prove the left wrong, or are you going to prove them spectacularly right? Am I going to have to come on here and apologize to Krystal for ever believing in any right-wing populist?
You're never going to apologise for anything, you fucking knob. What are you talking about?
And say, oh, I was a sucker. Those guys were liars. All they want to do was increase the Pentagon, have more wars.
Which they've literally done. They've literally done that. They've literally done that, motherfucker, and you're not going to apologise. You're going to whinge about being asked about it.
There's more corruption, and they never held Trump accountable. We waited 4 long years for them to hold him accountable, and all they did was kiss his ass and show that they don't really believe in freedom. They said all this stuff about freedom, but they never meant it. Mm-hmm. They said all this stuff about drain the swamp, but they never meant it. They said all this anti-war stuff, but they never meant it. We're going to come back on here in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, and we're going to keep doing a check.
So, Cenk, that was kind of...
Wow. Receipts, motherfucker. Explain yourself.
The context of that discussion, and just for the audience and for you, since there's 2 of us and 1 of you, and we don't want to be like jumping on all over each other, and maybe Kyle and I have disagreements on things, I thought I would kind of handle the first 30 minutes more or less. Kyle would handle the second 30 minutes. You've got a engagement you've got to go to, hard out in an hour, so that's the amount of time that we have.
We could do this for 4 hours if we had the time.
I'm sure we could, and it would be painful for all involved. But in any case, we've got a hard out for Cenk in 1 hour. We want to be very respectful of his time. So
you've got a hard out. She said hard out. They've got a hard out for Cenk and nothing different to that.
With everything that's happened in Trump 2.0, do you still feel that that original optimism that you expressed at the time, do you still feel that that was well-founded?
Absolutely. And I'm part of the reason.
God, you're a ball bag. You're a sweaty ball bag.
I wanted to come on is to see if you guys are on planet Earth or live in an alternate reality. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm being genuine about it. And Krystal, I went back and watched our conversation from back then.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Yeah, you kept saying like things against Trump. And that's why I didn't even think it was a debate. It was a discussion because I was like, yeah, I totally agree with you on Trump and the Republicans, et cetera. I was talking about the populist right and the independents that voted for Trump, the actual voters. And you saw it in that clip. I don't address Trump. I don't address any Republicans. I address the voters. So what has happened since then? Joe Rogan has come out against what Trump has done with Mahmoud Halil, with Uygur Garcia. Almost all of the MAGA hosts have come out against the war, ranging from Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon. Then you've got the politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got Tim Dillon. You've got, I mean, I'm not.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck are you talking about? He has continued and massively extended the genocide in Israel, give them an absolute blank check. He is literally moving troops and planes and guns and tanks and bombs out to the Middle East in readiness for a war that he definitely might not do in 2 weeks, honest. He has massively increased the military budget to, I think, the first $1 trillion military budget. He has signed off on massive tax cuts for the wealthy. What optimism did you have exactly? Please, please tell me how they've in any way brought your optimism to fruition. Chinky poops.
I'm sure you can name a right-wing MAGA host or independent host that's for the war in Iran. So I'm genuinely curious.
What the fuck does that mean? So what if the MAGA hosts don't mean? I don't care. You said you had optimism for what was the exact wording he used so that I don't fucking misquote him or whatever. Where was it? Hang on. Where was the fucking? Where's the tweet of his? Hang on. Here we go. He said, I have optimism. Sorry, I'm optimistic now. I know MAGA is not my mortal enemy. Well, they do appear to be your fucking mortal enemy.
Just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you've got hosts. Like, are you guys not seeing that, or does that somehow magically not count?
So, Cenk.
You know, that doesn't. It's not magical. It doesn't count. Steve Bannon is not the fucking president of the United States. So, I mean, get wrecked.
I have the same question as to whether or not you're on planet Earth. Because, first of all, let me ask you this question. Do you think that Trump 2.0 is better or worse than Trump 1.0?
Trump is irrelevant.
No, he's not irrelevant.
He's the president of the United States. Trump is irrelevant. He's literally the fucking president. Now, to be fair, he's not the only person that matters. He clearly has a lot of other very important and powerful people around him who can manipulate him and all the rest of it, of course. He's a very manipulatable person. If you're prepared to kowtow to his every wish, you can get your, shit through, whatever. But the idea that he doesn't matter, well, why have a president then at all? The fuck is this?
Because I'll tell you why. Here's why. You expressed optimism about how all this would go. And the reason you were optimistic is because,
hold on.
No, we just saw your tweet, okay? The reason you were optimistic
I can explain the tweet.
is because you thought these various groups and influencers would hold him accountable. So did they constrain his behavior, for example, when Elon Musk was running around with a chainsaw, slashing Social Security and gutting the federal government and gutting the CFPB. No, we didn't. In fact, we saw Joe Rogan host Elon Musk, not to mention Mark Zuckerberg and Mark.
Oh yeah. Joe Rogan was basically just slurping down every possible fucking shade of billionaire spunk for the last 6 months. It's been a tragic embarrassment.
Andreessen to make the case for those things, okay? No accountability there. Did we see them constrain his behavior and hold him accountable when he launched a crypto shitcoin, the most corrupt scheme in American history, most likely? No, he did it. He's faced no accountability for that. You mentioned some dissent from Rogan on the kidnapping of college students off of college campuses. Is it the right that organized in opposition to that? No, it's the left and it's liberals. The only time that Trump's actions have been constrained at all in this Trump 2.0 era, which is vastly worse than I even expected when you and I had that conversation. I mean, we've got men in hundreds of people in a concentration camp. I didn't see any accountability from the right on that. I don't see any.
Krystal, you don't understand. Ted Cruz said that you don't put people in concentration camps. So that can't possibly be. It can't possibly be that Trump is doing that because Ted Cruz told us it wasn't happening. And Ted Cruz is scrupulous in his honesty. Okay.
Accountability from the right on an American city that is right now under invasion by our own troops, Marines on the ground in the city of LA. No, I don't see any accountability there. I see an administration that, as I predicted, the guardrails are completely off. And the only places where he has been constrained at all is when the left and liberals organized against Elon Musk, Tesla protests, showing up at town halls, etc.
Burning that shit.
Made him toxic. He had to be turfed out of the administration. And in the context of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, when you had mass left liberal resistance, even pushing Democratic leaders who were lame and weak to do something, Chris Van Hollen goes down to El Salvador, and the administration did something they did not want to do, which was to bring him back. That is the only time this administration has been constrained. It has had nothing to do with the right, had everything to do with liberals and the left organizing against him.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You asked about 12 questions. I would love the time to answer it, but you didn't actually answer my question. Do you see a massive MAGA revolt against the war? And I'm being genuine. It's a literal question. Or do you just not see it?
Cenk, here's what I can tell you.
So he's going to ignore everything she said there. He's going to ignore everything she just fucking mentioned, where they didn't constrain him at all, and just go, well, some of them are making noises about the Iran thing, which, by the way, hasn't stopped him from doing it yet. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
Okay, Charlie Kirk, your buddy. He has already. He has already gone.
Okay, that was kind of bitchy. You know, you're drinking, buddy. You know, you go for a drink with him. You get a little bit drunk, maybe you wank each other off. You know, it's fine. You're friends. It's not gay. It's not gay to wank off another man. You're just relieving stress. It's fine. You're just despunkifying. It's absolutely fine. It's fine.
On. He has already gone. Thing to say. He's already gone from being critical of the Iran war to, guess what? He got a call from the White House, and now what's he saying? Oh, I trust Trump. Trump is the man for this moment. I know he's going to make the right decision.
The exact
Steve
quote
Bannon.
is.
They'll all fall in line with Trump. They always fucking do. They all fall in line with Trump. Because Trump's the God King Emperor. Trump would never lead us wrong, even though he has on fucking everything. God almighty.
I have the exact quote.
Yeah.
This is from Charlie Kirk. Quote, "We must trust Trump in this situation." Go ahead with Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, hold on, Steve Bannon, put up element number 4. This is the Financial Times today. Steve Bannon says, if the president, as commander-in-chief, makes a decision to do this, the MAGA movement, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Matt Gaetzes, we will fight it up till the end. But if he has more intelligence and makes that case to the American people, the MAGA movement will support President Trump.
Yeah, of course.
When Trump says that he gets to define what America first is, he's right about that. And so when you have Bannon, who also was critical of Elon Musk originally and got a call from the White House and said, cut it out, and he bent the knee,
Oh, really? Okay. 255 tells us that Rod Fleming, who's the guy who did the despunkify thing, the one, Alexander the Great wasn't gay, all that shit, hasn't uploaded since late last year. For all I know, he's dead. Well, we can hope. Obviously, 255, yeah.
These people, time and time again, Cenk, all they do is ultimately, when Trump makes a decision, they bend the knee. We are already far enough into this administration to know there has been no constraint on his action that has come from the right. None. And we're in a war with Iran.
Okay.
We are already in a war with Iran. They didn't constrain him here. He's doing whatever the hell he wants to do.
Okay. So you guys just spoke for like 8 minutes doing a straw man. Okay. So you make it sound, and this is what's so harmful. You guys make it sound like I'm pro-Trump, and I think that MAGA is just a bunch of angels who are secretly left-wing. And
Jesus Christ. So he says, oh, you just strawmanned me, and then instantly strawmans. Instantly comes up with this thing. No one's saying that you think that fucking Trump and MAGA are perfect little angels. It's that you play defense for them constantly. Like, yeah, we know you don't agree with Trump on everything. It's that you were wrong to be optimistic, and that you could, maybe row back your position a little bit, because clearly Trump is not the fucking, I don't know, the guy who's going to take on the establishment. He is the establishment. There's a reason that cunts like Ted Cruz love him. Come on.
And they're going to magically agree with us on every issue. And the minute that Trump does something wrong, they're going to all push back 100%. And that's what I believed. I believed in rainbows and unicorns. Of course not, Chris.
Well done on not straw manning there, Cenk. Fantastic.
Of course not. Well, you're trying to move them. Moving the other side is super hard. And so when you see something, anything where they actually agree with us, you have to encourage that. So when you...
But what do they agree? Cenk, this is the same fucking problem. What do they agree with us on? Ultimately, not a lot, because they don't really believe anything. They will believe and go along with whatever Trump does. They say they're anti-war, but if Trump decided to drop a nuclear bomb on fucking Tehran, they'd all be out there saying, yippee, fuck the Ayatollah, down with the sand N-words. Right? That's exactly what they'd be fucking saying. They all said, wow, what Israel's doing is terrible. Why are we sending all this money to Israel? And then Trump gets in, sends even more money to Israel and gives them an absolute blank check to invade basically fucking everywhere, to bomb everywhere. And they're all fucking, hushed about it. Nope. Who cares?
You say all the things that you said. Is Trump a bad guy? Of course, of course. So if you're listening out here, guys...
Well, you think you'd have any criticism at all for him, then?
The framing of all of this is totally wrong. Like, we're having a conversation. Oh, do you think Trump's a bad... Of course I think Trump's a bad guy. He's totally authoritarian. That's why I voted against him. That's why I worked so hard against him. So even the framing makes me, sound defensive.
No, you're self-defensive because you're a bitch. You know how during the Middle Ages, whenever there was a revolt, the rebels has to say the king was listening to bad counsel or something, because they couldn't just come out and openly oppose what was said to be a divinely appointed monarch. I keep getting reminded of that by conservatives who oppose the war with Iran are talking. Like they're desperate to say they're not actually opposing Trump. Yeah, because Trump is like a totem for the right. Trump is like a thing you can't go against. You saw it in the debate we just watched with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. One of the accusations Ted Cruz throws at him in the last desperate gasp of hoping to salvage anything from it was, you criticise Trump. As if criticising the President of the United States is somehow inherently bad. It's ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. You can't criticise Trump on the right, especially in America. It's less so in Britain because, we're Britain, but whatever. In America, you can't, if you're on the right, you can't really criticise Trump. That's why, Ben Shapiro's pivot. Ben Shapiro worked out for, with 4 years of being anti-Trump and his money dwindling like fuck, he realised he couldn't then go through another cycle of being anti-Trump. So he had to pretend to be pro-Trump. I don't think he likes Donald Trump. I don't think he supports a lot of Donald Trump's policies. Because he's far more hawkish than Donald Trump has ever been. Like, he would nuke all brown people on the planet, I'm sure. Ben Shapiro would if he could, right? He would literally exterminate Muslims. I'm fucking certain of it. But he pretends to love Trump because financially you sort of have to, right? And so they all do this. Whenever they disagree with Trump, they're not criticising Trump. They're always saying like, oh, it's because Stephen Miller's been in his ear and lied to him, or Steve Bannon's been in his ear and lied to him, or J.D. Vance is misleading him. It's not that the God King Emperor could possibly have gotten anything wrong. It's one of his wise counsel. It's one of his, I only hire the best people type shit. Which he also disagrees with himself. Like, Tulsi Gabbard said that Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon. Oh, I don't care what she fucking says. And then 2 days later, she now thinks, oh no, they definitely were going to get nuclear weapons like next Tuesday or some shit. Because she's bending the knee in order to keep her fucking job. It's tragic.
When you guys started with a premise that's out in la la land. We totally oppose Trump.
Oh yeah, I would imagine Ben Shapiro was much more happy with Trump's second term because of his, support for Israel's war with everybody in the region. Yeah.
So now, the second part of the premise that's totally wrong is, do I think that MAGA is going to revolt on every issue against Trump from day one? Why? Why would they? They love Trump. Of course not. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for, is there one or two issues where there is actual agreement, and can we take that agreement and do something interesting?
No. No is the answer. There is no real agreement, and even if there were, that can change in a heartbeat if Trump changes his policy. There's nothing interesting to be done here. You're just suckling upon the same pig titty.
To restrain Trump in those issues. So when you talk about immigration...
And so when has that worked?
Okay, hold on. Well, we're in the middle of...
Did you know that his real full name is Jance Dance Vance? I hope it is. That would be amazing. His mom was a crackhead, so it would make sense, yeah.
Of it right now. So, I'll tell
we're
you
at war with Iran, Cenk. Hate to break it to you. We're at war with Iran. It didn't work.
Okay. So, Krystal, let me finish. So when you talk about immigration and all the things that he's terrible on, I know what MAGA's movable on or not. I talk about it on the Young Turks all the time. If you think you're going to move them on immigration, you are nuts. They're not going to move it.
Okay, so why were you fucking optimistic then? If you knew he was going to be blackbagging people and ICE were going to be trying to fucking take over Dodger Stadium and presumably remove half of the fucking roster because they're from the Dominican Republic or whatever. You fucking bell piece.
An inch on it.
By the way, I can't believe it. Trump is such a wanker, he's made me like the fucking Los Angeles Dodgers. A team whose stadium I would happily terms of service. But they told him to fuck off. Amazing. Fucking amazing shit. Prick.
Immigration. So I fight him tooth and nail on that dungeon in El Salvador that they're sending people to, the Marines in the streets. Now, there's some issues like immigration where they haven't moved an inch and they never will move an inch, right? Mm-hmm. There's some issues like the Marines in the streets where a smattering of them are like, this is a little uncomfortable. It feels a little unconstitutional. It doesn't feel quite right. Those libertarian wing, remember guys, this is super important. There's 77 million people that voted for Trump, right? If you treat them all the same, you will not be able to win elections. Why is winning elections important? Because that is how you take power away from Trump, away from the Republicans. So if you treat all 77 million as hardcore MAGA, you are going to push them away and they're going to vote against you. You can say, oh no, but it makes me feel better. I have emotional release and my audience likes me more.
Motherfucker, you're such a bitch. Like, you literally treat everyone to the left of Genghis Khan as the maximalist left, the extreme left, the hardcore left. Fucking hell. You're treating Krystal Ball as if she's a fucking rabid fourth internationalist or something. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck me. What's this? This is what Trump said about the right wing stopping the war. Okay.
Say, guys, I was wrong. No, it turns out the right-wing populists, they weren't anti-war. They were just cultists, right? Or I'll be right, and some portion of that base will go, no, we're sick of funding Israel's wars. Not that they care about Muslims. I mean, Tucker's a good example of it. He turned on the Iraq war a year into the war, and he explained on a radio show, he's like, because these Iraqi Arab Muslims are monkeys, and I don't care about them.
Yeah,
So he doesn't
yeah.
do it with good intent
Sure.
or anything positive in his heart, but they genuinely want to get the hell out of wars, right?
Yes.
So if I'm right, when Trump pushes too far on Israel, they're going to push back.
I
And
think
so that's a great...
Brilliant. What a fucking soothsayer. Honestly, he's a political genius, this lad. Yeah. He's a political genius. You know, when he tries to back Israel, the MAGA, they'll push back on him. And they'll stop it. Honest. Yeah. This is the third time I've called him a bitch now. Well, I think I've called him a bitch more than that. More than that number of times. Because, you know, that's the way it goes. Apologies if you can hear my neighbours. I think they're having a party outside. It is Saturday though, so you let them off. And it is like crazy fucking hot right now, so having a few beverages in the back garden. I think I'll probably go and join them once the stream's done. They'll still be out there. They'll be out there till 2 or 3. Yeah.
Because I seem like I'm tougher on Trump. I was so mean to him. Yeah, but did that persuade anybody? I called all of his voters fascists. Yes, but did that persuade anyone? You're trying to persuade the people in the middle to come to your side. So what are the issues where we've got a fighter's chance? War. Okay.
No, you haven't. You're fucking lying to yourself, or, more likely, you're lying to us, the viewer. You know that's not true, Cenk.
So now, do I think that on day one, they were all going to flip and then act and be successful in stopping all of the establishment, all the neocons?
What is my drink of choice? The drink that gets me drunk. I've got I am a severe alcoholic. No, I'm only joking. Guinness. I do like Guinness. I like a vodka and lemonade. Is a particular delicacy. On a cold day like today, though, anything. Sorry, not cold. On a really, really warm day like today, basically anything that's been refrigerated. If it's got alcohol in it and it's been in a fridge within the last hour, put it in my fucking face.
And by the way, were we successful? We were not successful in stopping any of them during Biden or any other Democratic administration either, right? So now there's a giant...
Yeah, and there was no one on the left that was optimistic about those pricks either. What are you talking about?
Full-blown revolt from...
I can't say hi to the chickens. They've been dead for about a year, Navigator. Good lord. I will say hello to the dog and the cat, though. No, cat. Did I show you this? I'm not sure if I did. I got a video of the cat. It bullies me for food. Next door neighbour's cat bullies me for fucking food. And I just let her, because look, cats know a soft touch, and I am one of the softest touches that's ever existed, frankly. It's a little bit embarrassing, honestly.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Look at this absolute cutie pie. What a legend. Anyway, I'll probably go and stroke her later on. Give her some treats. But she does need to stop bullying me for food in the morning.
MAGA against this war. Now, if you're saying, no, I don't see Tucker Carlson, Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Posobiec, Cernovich, Candace Owens, etc., all of them opposed to the war, but you might not, because a lot of people watch programming that honestly just kind of gives them a misleading sense of what's happening.
What in the fuck? Aryan? Isn't this a fucking Nazi thing? What? Aryan is a cold, savoury yogurt beverage that is consumed across Central Asia and the Balkans, in Turkey and Iran. The ingredients are da-da-da-da-da. Is it? It's not alcohol, though, is it? Or is it? I don't know. Is it? No, No, it's not alcohol. So I mean, I don't know. Well, I won't be drinking it then. It looks like frothy milk. It's gross.
Did you see Tucker, Trump saying, Tucker called me to apologize. He said he went too far. Did you see Steve Bannon saying, we're all going to fall in line ultimately? So I'm not talking about, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the however many million Americans voted for Trump, some of whom are hardcore MAGA, and you will never move them. And I guarantee you, the moment that Trump says, this is the policy, they're going to say, you're right, sir, this is the policy, this is brilliant, and I am on board. Are there independents that can are there independents that can be moved? Yes. There are two separate questions here, okay? Number one is we are in hell right now. Like, the level of damage that has been done to this country, done to the world from Trump 2.0 already is astounding. So the number one thing is triage, right? How do we stop?
That's what I'm doing.
How do we stop as much damage as we can? And the track record thus far in the Trump administration is the only time he has been constrained is through the left and liberals banding together and going through the court system and public pressure. That's it. That's all we've seen in this administration. The other question is, how do you win elections? So go ahead and address that, and we can talk about the election piece. But real quick, before you get in, you know, as to the earnestness of this MAGA anti-war movement, put element number 3 up on the screen. Do you know, tell me, how many Republicans have signed on to the War Powers Resolution?
One.
Is Marjorie Taylor Greene? No. Is Lauren Boebert there? No. One. Thomas Massey.
Where's Thomas Massey? Oh, there he is, the first one. Okay. Kentucky as well. Okay, cool. Senate, you've got Tim Kaine. No War Against Iran Act. Bernard Sanders. Nice. Elizabeth Warren. Oh, Snakey Snake. Nice. Okay. Cool.
A libertarian who is, you know, ideologically consistent, kind of similar ideologically to Dave Smith. Every other person here is...
I mean, Dave Smith, don't get me wrong, he's good on the anti-war stuff, but he's also a fucking tool, so let's not, like, Dave Smith's a fucking libertarian douche nozzle.
Democrat. So, to the earnestness of this anti-war MAGA coalition and their commitment to blocking war with Iran, here is where the rubber meets the road. You have one Republican who is already at odds with Trump, who is willing to put his name on this War Powers Resolution. That's it.
So, Krystal, look, I know you don't mean it, but you keep conflating two things. The Republican politicians, including Trump, and the Republican voters, or the people...
Motherfucker, when you were asked why you were optimistic, you brought up people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because they're pushing back against Trump and they're going to constrain Trump. But they aren't. They've dedicated themselves to not doing that. Like, I'm sorry, the idea that Trump and MAGA are divorceable is absurd. Trump is MAGA. Who else is fucking MAGA, you prick? God, this is pathetic.
People who voted for Trump, okay? So are the Republican politicians corrupt? Of course they're corrupt. Are they going to say, hey, Israel?
It's just that you virtually never mention that they're corrupt. You do mention that Democrats are corrupt, and that's fine, but that's all you do. Because that's the shell game, isn't it, Cenk? That's the role you play in the right-wing ecosystem.
I'll be your bitch, and I'll do whatever the hell you want me to do. Of course they are. They're completely owned by Israel, okay? So AIPAC, etc.
I kind of want the noise alert of him saying, I'll be your little bitch, because he is.
Warmongers, by the way, let's be honest, is more than half the Democratic Party totally owned by AIPAC. Yes, right? So I know. Oh my God!
Does anyone have that graphic of I think he's a Democrat, who you know, if you go to AIPAC tracker on Twitter, you can see how much money each senator and congressperson has been given by AIPAC, and there's one Democratic, I think he's a congressperson, who received $9 from AIPAC. Fucking $9. 9. Imagine selling your soul for $9. What the fuck? You can buy like a Big Mac with $9, and that's about it. Amazing. What audio format does Kevin Logan work with, by the way? The one that plugs in a microphone and speaks into it? I have no idea. I don't know. But if my audio's not great, it's also because I've got a fan on. Look, I'll show you, right? I'll turn the fan off very briefly. And I think you'll be able to tell that my audio is a little more crisp and uninterrupted. You may even be able to hear the vaguely reggae sounding music they're playing next door in the garden. But now I'm going to put the microphone back on. The fan back on, because I'm literally dripping with sweat after 10 seconds without it blasting into my face. So, there you go. Apologies for that, but it's, I mean, literally without it I'd be I'd die. I'd have to broadcast from the netherworld.
You can't be honest. You have to just say the other side is terrible and our side is angels. No, I'm not going to play that.
Would you would you rather be on the side of the 37 who signed onto the War Powers Resolution,
Krystal,
or the
I am
1?
on the side of the 37. Everything you frame is a straw man. I am on the side of the 37. In fact, Ro Khanna is my top ally. Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna and I had the same exact strategy that you criticized in November when we talked.
That's not true.
You literally put me, and Kyle did the same thing. You guys put me in the same bucket as Bernie and Ro, reaching out to see if we can find agreement on the right.
But what else has Bernie done? What else has Bernie done?
I muted myself. What? When did I mute myself? What do you mean? What? Vicky, that might be a you problem. I think you might have to refresh your page, because the OBS is showing me peaking in the yellow, which is exactly where you need to be. Yeah. There was a pause, but no commentary. Well, I think that must be a you problem, because I didn't hear any other complaints from anybody. Yeah, you have to peek in the piss colour. For those who don't know, actually, can I just... yeah, fuck it, I'll show you. I'll show you my setup. I have to do a screen capture, is it, I think? A full screen capture. Where is that? Where is the full screen capture? Share your monitor? I guess that's what I'm after. Yeah, do that. Boom. Right. So, ignore the never-ending OBS there. So, there you go. That's the audio setup. So, the yellow is, so if it's in the green like that, it's a bit too soft. And if it's in the red, it's too much. But if you get it right in the yellow there, absolutely crisp. Perfect. That's where you want to be, right in the yellow. Anyway, we'll get rid of this. Now that I've shown you behind the curtain.
That has been profoundly impactful. The anti-oligarch, the Fight Oligarchy tour, which was an effort to bind together the left and the liberals to protest and to resist this administration, and that has been profoundly more impactful.
You're having a conversation with a person who isn't here.
Did the Pentagon budget get cut? Just tell me that. What's the Pentagon budget? Did it get cut?
You've now asked me 28 questions.
Did Don Jr., did he do whatever with the generals? Did that work out?
All right, guys, look, I came on here because, look, you're generally fair. So you asked
me... you're asking me difficult questions. I'm going to run away.
28 questions, and then let me answer them. So, and stop framing it as if I'm a different person. You keep making all these assumptions about who I am. Oh, are you on the Republican side or the Democratic side?
I'm literally citing things that you said, Cenk. Like, I played your clip of what you said. Christ, turn to the camera. Okay, hey, tell me if I'm wrong.
Krystal, I'm right here. I'm right here. Can I talk for myself instead of you?
You specifically held on the Pentagon budget.
At this point, borderline lying about me in...
Jesus Christ. Does he think he comes across well in this? Does he think this makes him look good? Does he think that this is like a positive thing for him? He looks like the biggest fucking twat in the world. How many bridges is he going to burn with the left? Honest to God.
Every framing of every question, can I
How am I
actually,
lying?
a human being named
How am I
Cenk,
lying?
actually
Tell me how I'm
answer your
lying.
questions instead of you
Tell me
framing
how I'm lying,
me as a
Cenk.
person that doesn't exist?
Cenk,
Okay?
I played the clip of you talking, so tell me how I'm lying.
Okay. All right. So now, of all your questions, you have this fantasy land that Trump was like, oh, the left thinks Abrego Garcia's, I've treated him wrong. I surrender.
No, it's that you put pressure on people, you put pressure on the system, protest is important, you put physical restraint to not allow ICE to do what it does. Has been important about saving a lot of people's fucking existence. Yes, that actually is true. But secondly, and this is more important in terms of concrete steps within the legal framework, is that one of the very few ways in which they have been able to actually constrain Trump and his people is through the courts. It hasn't always been effective, to be sure, but we did just see Mahmoud Khalil released today. We did see Abrego Garcia brought back to the United States when Trump guaranteed he would never be brought back. And he was, because of legal action. So, the idea that he only ever listens to the right is not really true, because that's not really how politics works. And you quite rightly point out, Jay Kong, Cenk is too old to be this naive, which means it must be dishonesty. It has to be dishonesty because he can't be this ignorant. Like, that's almost a compliment in a sense. I'm saying he's not stupid enough to be getting this wrong. So he has to be being dishonest.
Under left, are you, come on, what planet do you live on? No, the courts are not left or right. The courts have held. I'm thrilled that the courts have held. And it was so important for the courts to hold. So if they didn't hold on that, he was going to have unlimited authoritarian power.
Okay, dickhead. Is it the left or the right that is bringing these court cases? Is it the left or right that went down to El Salvador to meet with Abrego Garcia? It wasn't MAGA people that have done any of this. At any point. You fucking tool.
And we are against that, no matter how many times people try to pretend that we're on the side of Trump. Listen to what I am actually saying, and you will see this every day on the Young Turks. I am...
Cenk, if you are consistently misinterpreted by everybody, apparently, you keep saying, people are misinterpreting me, people aren't listening to the things I'm actually saying, blah, 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 blah. If that keeps happening to you, maybe there's something wrong with what you're saying. Maybe you're not putting your position forward in the most clear and concise way, because people keep misunderstanding you. Or that is actually the point. People aren't misunderstanding you. They're fully understanding you. And you are a right-wing wanker now. You're the thin end of the wedge. Again, the bullshit straw man that he used earlier, that people say that he thinks that MAGA is just perfect and all perfect, 100% wonderful angels. No one thinks that. You're the thin end of the wedge. You're the only ever attack the left and Democrats from a position on the left, honest guys, and occasionally put out some like mealy-mouthed, like, oh, Republicans are kind of bad as well, I guess. Like that sort of thing. That's what you do. You are the liberal thin end of the wedge of the MAGA bullshit pipeline ecosystem. That's what you do. And you're the thinnest of the thin end of the wedge, and then the next person along there is your co-hostess with the co-mostess, everyone's favourite bonus hole. Everyone's favourite birthing person, Anna Kasparian. Quite a 1-2 punch on your right-wing polymarket populism show.
Against Trump. Totally. Okay. Now, okay. Yes, but why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk,
okay,
talk
so
about a
now,
straw
hold on,
man. I
hold
mean,
on, let
you're
me-
making
for
up
God's
stuff
sake,
I never
Krystal, let me answer your
said.
questions.
Come on.
For fuck's sake, you know he's getting triggered, and he's dropping F-bombs. I thought he was anti-war, but he's dropping bombs. He's dropping F-bombs all over Tehran.
What's the point of coming on here if I can't answer your
Jake,
questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
So you want to
Jesus
talk about
Christ,
straw men?
Krystal.
You're
This is,
inventing
it's a
things on the
mistake
spot.
talking to you guys. It's a mistake. So, okay.
So it's a mistake talking to them, but I'll go for a beer with Charlie Kirk. It's not a mistake talking to Charlie Kirk. Then having a few brewskis with my broham. Yeah, no, that's cool, that's cool. Whereas these two leftoids need to fuck off.
Okay, now, when you're talking about the Pentagon cuts, do you think that I thought, oh my God, Elon's such a good guy, and Trump's such a good guy, even though I've spoken out against them at every single...
You did tweet out that you were going to work with Elon Musk, and you got really excited when he, responded to you on Twitter about it. Like, you and him were definitely going to team up and work together to take down the military-industrial complex. Motherfucker, he's the richest man in the world who earns a fortune in military contracts. Did you think for a second he was going to cut a fucking cent from the budget? No, obviously not. And not only that, they've massively increased it now. Ridiculous.
Single turn. And then I magically thought, oh, I bet they become liberals overnight, progressives overnight. No, you put out the Pentagon thing so that they're stuck either way. That's why Bernie and Roe joined me. Because either they cut the Pentagon, we go, yes, mission accomplished. We got a tiny, tiny amount accomplished during a Trump reign, which seemed impossible. Or they don't cut the Pentagon and they add to it. And then we all come out, as I did and Bernie and Roe did, and go, see, we told you.
No, you didn't tell us. You literally, you were like, oh, I'm going to work with Elon Musk to cut the budget. The fuck is wrong with you? Look, for me, it was a win-win either way. Because either Elon Musk and you were going to be made to look like absolute fucking twats when this didn't happen, and we got to point at you and go, see, you're full of shit. Or Elon Musk and you were going to be successful in cutting the military budget, and they were going to fucking murder him. They were going to literally end Elon Musk. If he'd gotten anywhere near cutting the military budget, he'd have fallen out of a window. Or accidentally totally committed suicide by himself, honest. Or drink some polonium tea, perhaps. Who knows? And it was the former of those things, by the way. He may still die of a drug overdose, who knows? But they didn't cut the budget. They actually massively increased it. And Cenk Uygur got egg on his face and now has to come out here and cope like a bitch. Because that is what he is. A bitch.
Hypocrites. The leaders of your party never intended to cut the Pentagon. MAGA, they were lying to you. Now,
Now, does
Krystal,
MAGA care, Cenk? Did that work? Did MAGA
yes,
care?
they do care.
No, they don't.
No, okay, Krystal.
I've seen zero pushback on the Pentagon. Let me just say, because I let you go on for a little while.
Oh, I know.
There
God
were
forbid I got to answer one or
there
two
were
questions.
two.
Go ahead.
There were two.
God, you're a passive-aggressive little cunt, man. Fucking hell. Oh, heaven forbid I could answer two questions. If you're enjoying me just calling Cenk Uygur a bitch, and why would you not enjoy that? It's glorious. You can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits, messages, and super chats. Patreon, PayPal, Discord, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads, or whatever. If you're on YouTube, or YouTube, what the fuck is going on? You can become a member for 99p. You can do super chats, which I'll read out. You can subscribe to the channel, like it, and do the bell button for fuck all. Oh, Yeah, he is absolutely raging. He is both coping and seething.
Tactics that were floated by me and by you in our conversation, okay? You said, I think it's great that Elon's responding to me, Don Jr.'s responding to me, like we have more of a chance. No, you said we have more of a chance with these guys to cut the Pentagon budget than we don't. And I said, nothing good's gonna come out of this. And so the important thing to do is to resist the project outright, because we don't want a bunch of the richest man on the planet running our government. And so we saw how this played out.
Yeah,
the Pentagon. Hold on. The Pentagon did not get cut, and actually, what happened is all of the liberal and left organizing against Tesla, against the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, against Elon directly, tanked his popularity to the point that Trump felt he was a political liability, and the whole project had to be scrapped. So the tactic of let's work with them and try to cut the Pentagon budget failed. The tactic of let's resist this project outright and make the case and make Elon himself politically toxic succeeded.
So, Krystal, we do live in two different worlds. It's fascinating to see. It's amazing to see. So, number one, the project of saying cut the Pentagon worked. Why did it work? Because they cut the Pentagon, they magically became progressives overnight? No. It worked because it showed and highlighted their hypocrisy.
This is such fucking cope. This is such unbelievable cope. You weren't doing like see, I'm holding their feet to the fire. No, you were like, me and Elon Musk are going to work together. We're going to take down the Pentagon. Yippee! It's so shit. It's so shit. You're so fucking full of it, mate.
That they weren't going to cut the Pentagon. And now I get it, guys. Especially if you're in the audience, you're not seeing it. I get it. And I'm not saying that as an insult. You're not seeing it.
So
because
you won because the Pentagon budget went up, even though you thought that the Pentagon budget would get cut.
Can I finish?
Bitch. Look at the smile on her face. She knows she just clapped those cheeks. She just bent him over and fucking cheese grated this man's buttocks. Look at her. That's the smile of a cat who just knocked your shit off the table and is like, yeah, and you're not going to do anything about it, bitch. That is a Cheshire cat grin. Absolutely delightful activity.
So the reason you're not seeing it is because you're not engaging with MAGA, and that's okay. And you don't want to engage with MAGA. I got it.
Do you know who I am? Do you know the show I host?
I don't know if you know who you are.
Who are you talking to right now? I host a show with Sagar and Jetty and Emily Jasinski every day.
Okay, so Krystal,
no one in this room talks more to MAGA than I do, okay?
Yeah, okay. But so are you saying that none of the...
I wonder if she still softballs him, though. I don't know.
The MAGA voters were thrilled that they added to the Pentagon? Is that what you're saying?
They don't give a shit because Trump did it.
Elon and Trump...
No, you guys are wrong.
Elon and Trump and Don Jr., Cenk, lied to you from the beginning when they pretended like there was even a 1% chance of it. So when people told you at the time, though, resist them outright and point out that they're frauds.
Okay,
don't pretend like maybe they'll cut it. That was kind of the point.
You guys have a totally ridiculous, All right, let me not be insulting. We disagree on strategy, okay?
Yeah, and you're wrong. Your strategy has been proven wrong. It has been proven not to work. Now, an adult, when seeing that their strategy has failed, changes approach, changes their direction somewhat. But not Cenk. No.
Definitely,
so,
yes.
Okay, yeah. This whole idea that you're making a difference because Donald Trump is listening to the left, I can't believe you guys think that. That sounds...
No, it's not that he wants to listen to the left. It's that public pressure stops ICE from doing what they do. It puts pressure on the Californian authorities to resist ICE. It puts pressure on the authority of a number of other places to resist ICE. It's not that Trump is listening, because Trump isn't fucking listening to the left. It's that the authorities in these places have to listen to their constituents, to some extent, and respond. And that pushback is what forces Trump to have to change tack. That's the point. There is an intermediate step that you're ignoring. Do you think fucking Gavin Newsom wants to go to war with the fucking federal government? No, he's a little fucking bitch. He'd much rather the federal government leave him alone to start fucking, I don't know, setting up concentration camps for the homeless or something. Right? Fucking Soylent Green for the unhomed. Or fucking using slave labour to put out fucking forest fires or whatever. That's what he wants to do. But his constituents aren't having this fucking shit. So, you know, pushback happens. And now he's Gavin Newscom, which is hilarious. Brilliant. Well done. Honestly, Donald Trump, one of the great wits of our age.
Totally detached from reality.
I'll make that case in a minute.
Why is Elon Musk out? Because people burn Tesla cars? I mean, Krystal, you said that in the intro. Are you serious? No, Elon's out because his policies were always deeply unpopular. No one wanted those cuts.
Yeah, and who pressed that case?
Them, and they're
yeah, MAGA did. A lot of MAGA did want those, actually. Yeah, yeah, they did.
And who pressed that case?
The
it was the left and liberals
in the street.
Joe Rogan hosted him on his podcast to pump him up. Joe Rogan, think about, but Cenk, think about this. Think about this.
Unbelievable straw man.
No.
Hold on, can I just finish?
Let me just finish my thought here, okay? Rogan hosted Zuckerberg and Andreessen to attack the CFPB.
Of course he did.
To gut and attack the
CFPB. Bernie Sanders progressive overnight?
No,
Are you insane? No.
So every time a right winger does something evil, that's fine because they're meant to be evil. Okay, so why are you criticising the people pushing back against that evil? Like, how can you alienate them further if they're already doing the evil thing?
Oh, guys,
are you insane? You were the one who apparently thought that. Cenk,
no, but
if anything is going to be populist, hold on, Cenk. Let me finish a thought. If anything, if the populist right stands for anything, you would think it would be an anti-scam bureau that is wildly effective. But no, and actually stood up against debanking conservatives. But no, what did Rogan do, and what did they cheer for with Elon with the chainsaw? Completely gutting not only the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Trump gutting the National Labor Relations Board, but them defenestrating the ability of this government to enforce white-collar crime at all. Did MAGA care? No, they didn't. The only people that held them to account were left and liberals who organized against that and, yes, successfully made Elon so toxic that he ultimately crashed out of the administration. That's what happened.
So let me try explaining it this way and see if I can get through to you guys. So you keep telling me all the things that Trump did wrong. Of course he did. So I'm saying that it's a given that he's always going to do, for example, 90% of things massively wrong.
So you never bother criticising him. Good plan. Excellent.
And in the other 10% that he plans to do wrong, I'm saying we have a fighter's chance if we ally and we show hypocrisy, or we get allies. It's a win-win either way, okay? So for example, in opposing the war, either they become our allies and somehow at some point we stop this war, or we show, oh, you guys never meant it. Now you're the pro-war party, which makes us much more likely to win over independents and win the next election. But as I say that, you keep framing it
as if MAGA give the slightest fuck about hypocrisy. What are you talking about? God, this guy's full of shit.
As if I agree with them 90%, and where I think that I'm going to flip them overnight on the 90% where we disagree. No, there's no chance of that. So you can stop asking that question. They're not going to move on cutting the budget, and they're not going to listen.
Whoa! So apparently MAGA didn't want it, and it was so unpopular they had to stop it, but they were never going to change anyway. So it's almost like the right wing don't hold him to account ever for anything. Well done, Cenk. Excellent work. Prick.
And that, hey, you know what? You shouldn't cut the malaria treatment in Africa. You shouldn't cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because every dollar we spend there, we get back $20, etc. But if you go with your maximalist approach, guys, and you
here we go, maximalist approach. Here we go. Wanting Trump to do anything good is maximalist. What we should do is work with them, and then when they don't do anything, never complain or make any fucking point about that ever. That's the role they play. It's the thin end of the fucking media ecosystem. get the left to complain less. Get the left to be less angry at Trump doing evil stuff. That is precisely the polymarket position that has been staked out for Cenk Uygur, for Anna Kasparian, for the TYT network. That is what they do. They give a veneer of left liberal talking points or positions, and what they actually do is get you, as a left-leaning person, as a liberal person, whatever, to not complain about MAGA so much, because of course he's going to be terrible. We all know he's going to be terrible, so why are you bothering? It's actually really, really disgusting. Pathetically cynical.
All right, I'm fighting you in a maximum way, so that means I'm never going to agree with you. I'm going to insult you at every turn. I'm not going to listen to you. So when you come in and you go, hey guys, let's ally against the war, or maybe did you think that Elon's and I said this in every right.
Okay, but Cenk, if me saying I think blackbagging immigrants and sending them to El Salvadorian torture chambers is bad, if me saying that gets a MAGA person who would otherwise have opposed the war in Iran to say, oh, fuck it, I'm for the war in Iran now, how much were they ever actually against the war in Iran? Like, that doesn't seem like a very firmly held conviction to me. If me criticising them, or even being mean to them, means that they're now pro-war. Seems to me like they were probably just going to go along with whatever Trump wanted anyway. This is embarrassing.
Right-wing talk show that I did, and I said it at the Charlie Kirk event. I said, remember, beware of your own donors like Elon Musk. And then eventually they got aware of their own donors. Now, did they do it magically and overnight? No, it was mainly a fight between Elon and Trump, right?
It was their egos. Course. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
And the reason they are unpopular is not because the left's maximalist approach of yelling fascist at every Trump voter is working.
Oh, no, it was because of you sucking Donald Trump Jr.'s dick. Yeah, obviously. Definitely.
It's because their policies are deeply unpopular.
And who explains that their policies are deeply unpopular? The left and liberals are the ones that highlight how deeply unpopular those policies are. So that's where the credit belongs.
Like I do. So
right, but that's not like Joe.
Do you? I don't hear that much from you, Cenk.
Rogan does, right? Joe Rogan doesn't do that. Charlie Kirk doesn't do that. They don't do that.
I just said how unpopular they are.
Yeah, but my point is, Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that, Cenk. They're not allies. Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that. Steve Bannon doesn't do that. Sloppy Steve goes and gives Trump a hand job every day. That's the point, is that they're not allies. And by the way, even on the Iran war thing, they're lying. They are lying. We literally have the quotes right here. Charlie Kirk is already backpedaling. Quote, we must trust Trump in this situation. Steve Bannon, if Trump ultimately decides to bomb Iran's nuclear sites, MAGA would come around. That's not me speaking. That's Steve Bannon. The vast majority of the MAGA movement will go, look, we trust your judgment. We don't like it. In fact, we may hate it, but we'll get on board. Tucker Carlson called Trump and apologized, and he also said on his podcast with Steve Bannon, quote, I like Israel. I don't talk about Gaza because my audience got mad at me. He said, quote, watching Donald Trump, who at his core is sincere about peace, I feel for President Trump, and he just has to roll with it. That is not true. What he's saying is not true. These are not allies. They will immediately start moving the goalposts as soon as Trump starts bombing Iran.
Here we go again.
You're going to get this. You're going to get, oh, he's getting bad advice from the neocons around him. It's not a big deal. It's a limited attack. It's defensive. It's not offensive. This isn't like Iraq. There are no boots on the ground. The only people who are sincere that I will grant you, Cenk, is libertarians. So Thomas Massey and Dave Smith, because libertarians have a track record like Ron Paul did of being very principled, but everybody in MAGA, or 99% of them, will bend the knee, just like 99% of the ones in Congress have already bent the knee. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's saying things that are against the war, she's ultimately not signing onto the bill to block the war.
Okay, so here we go again. So again, 90-10, guys. The framing of that question makes it sound like I think Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson have good intent, and my God, they're ready to rebel.
No, but you're saying that they're rebelling against Trump on the war, and they aren't. That's the thing. The 10% that you talk about, including being anti-war, they're already capitulating. They're already just going along with it. In fact, in some cases, they're actively supporting it because Trump wants to do it. So that's it. You can't work with these people. You just can't. Because they're not going to hold him to account. Ever. They'll just go along with whatever. right? They're free market capitalists, and then he imposes tariffs, and then all of a sudden they're protectionists, and then he gets rid of the tariffs, and they go, oh, that's genius, we're free market economists, we think this is wonderful. Then he reimposes the tariffs. Oh, we need to protect our industries, though. Like a fucking yo-yo. In, out, they'll shake it all about. Fucking Christ. He thinks he can work with these people. Just admit it. You've been bought and paid for. You're a polymarket pimp. You're a polymarket bitch. That's all you are.
On everything against Donald Trump.
I said Iran.
No.
I said Iran.
Can I just answer a question?
But I didn't say that. I said Iran.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So I think that obviously 90% of the influencers, the hosts, etc., are going to stick with Trump 100%, right? Well, I wouldn't even say 90%. I'd say 75% or so. Are they going to kiss his ass on everything? Well, of course they are. They're on the right, and their whole ecosystem.
Okay, so in what way are the 10 to 25% going to sway him? Is Trump more likely to stick with the 75% or make himself more unpopular in his base by going with the 10 to 25%? Cenk, fucking listen to yourself.
Is based on kissing politicians and leaders' asses. Now, let's be honest, not us and not you guys, but MSNBC and now a lot of online hosts on the left, their job is to kiss Democratic ass.
Okay, fine, but the immediate problem is Trump wanting to do war in Iran. What's that got to do? Yeah, MSNBC sucked Democrat dick. So what? The Democrats couldn't get anything fucking done when they were in power. Now they're not in power. Like, what are you expecting them to do? It doesn't matter. MSNBC can fluff Democrats as much as they like. They've got 49% of the seats in Congress. They've got 6% of the power. They're fucking useless. Good night, Tess. Thanks for stopping by.
And they say, oh, yeah, Joe Biden was young and dynamic, etc. So, yes, we have the partisans, and they are, by definition, always going to stick with one side is great, the other side is the devil. Okay, so now when you get to the 25% of hosts, because now the reason I moved it from 10 to 25, because you're including Rogan, etc. So is Rogan...
No, you included Rogan. You said Joe Rogan at the start. Oh, Joe Rogan's against the thing he's doing with the migrants. No, what? You included him. Yeah, Phantom of Black, leave it now, please, mate. You've had your back and forth. Let's not have people falling out.
The same as Steve Bannon. If you think he is, that's just totally wrong. Now, do they agree on a lot of things? Yes. Do they agree on everything? No. Does Steve Bannon right about most things? No. He's horribly, horribly wrong about most things. So will they, when Trump says heal, will they heal? In the beginning, yes. And that's exactly what you're seeing. But the reason they're having to heal is because they started rebelling in the first place. And Trump got mad.
They're not healing. It's just that they don't like it, but they always go along with it. That's it. It's not that they're pushing back and eventually they're definitely going to hold their ground, honest. No. They're pathetic little bitches who will literally go along with anything Trump does. As Trump quite rightly said at the very beginning, he could walk onto Fifth Avenue and shoot someone dead. That's it. Phantom of Black was timed out. Oh, timed out for 10 seconds. Okay, I'll be back then.
Everybody else got mad. And even today, you just go on any website. So Bannon is saying, don't go to war. It's terrible. Is he then saying, oh, Donald Trump? Of course he is, because he's on that side. And
so he's not going to stand up to him then? How is that him holding to account? How is that holding anyone to account? Cenk, listen to yourself, man.
We see a lot of left-leaning hosts go, oh, well, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are corporate guys and they're bad, but we have to go with them anyway. Yes, we did. But look, you have to be honest about what's actually happening. So if you guys are saying, and I'm not trying to strawman you guys like you did, in my opinion, in the framing of every question. So I'm asking you, are you really, you're saying it's all fake and you think that all these right-wing hosts are not actually anti-war, that this is, but they've...
Yeah, they're full of shit. Yes.
Been telling their audience now for months that that the war is a terrible. Let me ask the question, and that the war is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. But how would that strategy work? So they get their audience totally against the war, then they capitulate to Trump.
Let me tell you how that strategy works.
How did that help them be pro-war?
Let me explain. Let me explain how
My
that strategy works.
answer to your question is yes, by the way. In 99% of cases, they are just lying, and they'll go and suck Trump off again.
So let me...
That's a real disagreement.
They're already backing off, and the war didn't even start yet. We didn't even bomb the nuclear sites yet. They're already backing off.
How this strategy works, okay? They postured as anti-war because they thought it was a good electoral strategy. So now they have some track record laid of claiming that Trump is the pro-peace candidate, blah, blah, blah.
And why was it a good strategy? Because their voters are anti-war.
Okay,
they like to pretend they are, certainly.
Come back to that. Okay, the polling is wildly at odds with you, Cenk, on that. We can come back to that in a second. But okay, so this is the pro-peace ticket, whatever. And I think there were a lot of independents actually who were swayed by that.
Also, oh my God, he goes on about don't treat all MAGA voters as the same. There's lots of different types of MAGA voters, and yet he's now like, oh no, they're all anti-war. Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, because they're anti-war. As if all MAGA voters are anti-war. As if there aren't MAGA voters literally frothing at the mouth to bomb every brown country in the world. Or indeed, MAGA voters who don't support Israel, but not for the right reasons, but just because the Jews. And they'd happily glass Jerusalem in a second. Because they're anti-Semites.
Anti-war message, which was completely at odds with reality and with Trump's first term. I think we all agree with that, okay? So I think there were independent voters who were swayed by that. Charlie Kirk and others, now, to maintain some credibility, they have to postulate, oh, you know, Trump is getting pulled into this and the neocons are tricking him and confusing him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the 255 point earlier. It is like fucking medieval, you know, rebels being like, oh, the king is being poorly advised. It's not that the king is a wanker. No. It's that bad people at court are persuading him to do the bad thing. Like, ridiculous. Absolute nonsense.
It's never his fault.
But we already know how this plays out because it's already played out. Trump called Tucker kooky and said he needs to get a TV network, basically saying he's a has-been. Tucker called him to apologize. That was a message not just to Tucker, but to everybody else.
Yeah, so Tucker's already bent the knee. Brilliant.
Time to bend the knee, time to get on board. And they did. They did.
Yeah.
So we don't have to guess. It's already happened. It's already played out. Right, they've already bent the knee.
Okay, so we're now actually approaching an actual disagreement rather than the one that was foisted upon me that I don't like. So, all right. So, guys, you think that all these guys and their voters are all liars and that they're not actually...
I don't know why you lump in the voters because
I'm talking about the voters.
Okay, well...
No, you're not. You talked about Joe Rogan and fucking Steve Bannon.
Let's talk about the voters. Talk about the voters then. Let me ask you a really simple question. Let me ask you a really simple question about the voters.
Yeah, well, you of course you like the Trump and the Republicans. You trust them. No, I don't. Stop saying it.
Cenk.
It's so pathetic, Cenk. Jesus Christ, mate.
You said
Let me ask a really basic question.
37-1 vote. You said how many Republicans voted for war powers? I said one, Tom Massey, and you kept going like, oh, did you know that?
No, you said Marjorie Taylor Greene, actually.
But they didn't. I said, yeah. I said,
yeah, because they're fake.
So
but
yes, their voters.
Let me ask you this question.
Saying that their voters are not anti-war at all. So be clear.
There are some that are anti-war. There are some that claim to be anti-war and will join in, because they always fucking do. And there are some that are just pro-war. There's a mixture.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question.
Are you saying they're actually liars?
Let me ask you this question. Which base, the Democratic Party base or the Republican Party base, which one do you think is more opposed right now to war with Iran? Which one?
the left. It's not even close.
It's not even close. Exactly. That's the point. And so
No,
if
you're
you are
missing
going
my
to
point,
build,
Krystal. You're not
if you're going to
listening.
build a grassroots, people-powered movement with bodies in the streets to oppose war, where do you need to go for those numbers? The left,
Okay.
because they're already there with you. And by the way, the MAGA base, the minute that Trump says we're in a war with Iran, they are going to overwhelmingly back him
Well, give
because
the
they
numbers
have
already.
every single
You have
time.
the numbers
No, they're
already.
not.
So
Yeah,
give-
so put
Yeah,
up,
the Democratic base is not the left, but that's the kind of fake sell that people like Cenk, Uygur and Krystal Ball, and to a degree Karl Kalinske, have to sell, is that it's left versus right, when it's not really. It's hard right versus like centre right. Like, people forget very quickly that Joe Biden, and Joe Biden forgets very quickly as well. Hey-oh. Anyway, people forget very quickly that Joe Biden just got done being president of like the genocide. He was the president of the genocide. Did you remember that? The Democrats are not the left. The Democrats are currently running one of the most nasty smear campaigns against Zoran Mamdani, the actually progressive anti-Zionist candidate in the New York mayoral race. And it may yet be successful. I've seen some polling that suggests that Cuomo might win. I think he's favourite to win, albeit it's relatively narrow, I think. But they are really pulling out all the stops. It's Jeremy Corbyn 2.0 all over again. It's ridiculous. The Democrats are not the left, but that's like, just to decode that for you, that's what they mean. You know, it's left versus right. It's that thing. Because then you can treat it like football. This is the footballification of politics.
Put up 8. This is element 8, I believe, for us. These are the poll numbers. Now, there are other polls out there, I grant you, but this is among Trump 2024 voters. You ask them, do you support or oppose the U.S. providing offensive weapons to help Israel strike Iranian military targets? What we're doing now, 79% support. Do you support or oppose the U.S. taking its own direct military action, if necessary, to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons? That's exactly the framing that Trump is using right now. Support, 72%.
Well, see, there's a 7% difference, which is like 4 fucking people or some shit. Like, come on. Can you hear next door there? That's quite loud, right? They're fucking partying, man. Jesus. It is 10. God damn. Anyway, yeah, so basically there's very little difference. A minimal, almost what do you call it, margin of error between the two, right? Yeah, opposition went up 2% for difference, yeah. So, like, there's just no part of the MAGA base that actually fits the description that Cenk gives it of being genuinely anti-war and will stridently oppose Trump in his aims to do blah, blah, blah. It's nonsense. It's absolute fucking nonsense. This grand anti-war MAGA base that he describes does not exist.
They're more pro-war. So are there some who, don't want to get in another foreign entanglement? Sure. But overwhelmingly, are they going to back an Iran war? Are they already backing an Iran war because Trump says so? 100%.
Okay, so let's establish who we're talking about. So when you talk about Trump and the Republican politicians, 99% of them are liars. They're going to be pro-war. They're going to do all the terrible...
Dickhead, she just told you the numbers of 2024 MAGA voters. She didn't talk about the politicians. She didn't mention any politician. She didn't even mention Trump. Well, actually, technically she did mention Trump. But she wasn't talking about Trump as in his opinion particularly. She mentioned the fucking direct numbers, polling, hard data about 2024 MAGA voters. And the vast majority of them are in favour of war with Iran. please address that at all, Cenk.
Things that we're against, that we are all against, including me. Okay. Now, when you move to the media, I'm out on a limb, and I get it. If you grant them an inch, people will say, okay, that's it. You love them, and you're a Trump supporter, etc.
What are you talking about? Address the fucking polling data she just showed you.
But I'm doing it anyway because I'm being honest. I think
you're not being honest. Of all of the things you're being, Cenk, honest is not one of them.
Get some help.
Honest is not fucking one of them, my man. Thank you, Marcel Paul. Hopefully you're not melting in France, my man. Your neighbours are quite right to make noise. It's la fête de la musique tonight. Can we not have foreignese spoken in the chat, please? We don't need this. That is unacceptable. I apologise for that level of Frenchness, chat. It won't happen again. Actually, it probably will, but you know.
% of them are unreachable, but 25% of them, at a minimum, actually will listen to you. Have
49 months. You're nearly at your half century, by the way, mate. Lovely work. Gesundheit. Fucking Germans.
They have their own audience pushing them to be anti-war. They're not with us on all issues. They're not with us on most issues. But on war, I think that a significant chunk of them are with us. Okay, so...
Mate, she just showed you the numbers. No, they aren't. What the fuck is this now? We've got Bulgarian shit going down. By the way, on the point of Bulgarianness, this isn't necessarily the biggest thing in the history of Bulgaria. By the way, Ravana's awesome. Go and say hello to Ravana. Someone did remind me of this absolute belter from, I think it was Euro 96. Where are we? I bookmark a lot of old shite, don't I? Here we go. Absolutely fucking legendary strike from Trifon Ivanov at Euro 96. Look at this. Absolutely majestic strike. Honestly, it's up there with, well, this is Pele. Pele could have done this.
Just find their finishing touch.
Oh! Look how far this misses, but the goal isn't even in the fucking shot. Look at that. The goal is not even in the frame. It's not even on screen. It's a fucking beauty. Fucking magic.
So, when you go to Charlie Kirk's audience, for example, why is Charlie Kirk even dipping his toe into the waters of opposing Trump's policy on Iran and then quickly rushing back out? The quickly rushing back out is obvious. They're ass kissers.
You thought it was going to be a good Did I sell it? I sold it well. Nice, nice.
So the question is, why did he dip his toe in the first place? Because he did a poll of his own audience, and his audience said 90-10 do not help Israel go to war with Iran. 90-10. That's his audience, okay? So now you move to the last category, which are the voters themselves. That is where I am most hopeful that they actually are anti-war. Now, does that mean 100% of them are anti-war? No, not at all.
Right, but you can't just say, oh, well, not 100%, because she literally just showed you the numbers, and it's like 2%. There was a 2% difference, my dude. 2%. Fucking hell. Also, what I said was, how's this foreignese then? Or as close as I could in Bulgarian. Fair enough, yeah. He lobbed David Seaman from 45 yards. Oh, we're talking about Ronaldinho now, yeah. I can tell you the story of where I saw that goal take place. It's a peculiar story. So we're talking about 2002 World Cup, quarter-final, Brazil versus England. England doing very well. I think it was 1-1 at the time. And Ronaldinho, it wasn't a shot. It was a mishit cross. None of this like, oh, it's a falling leaf shot. I've practiced it. Load of bollocks. He went to whip the ball in as a cross. It went in. Absolute fucking mishit shot. Awful. Mishit cross. Absolutely awful. But it went in and they won. Whatever. And Ronaldinho was fucking amazing as a player during his career. So like whatever. Who cares? I watched that behind the paint shop of the Land Rover test and development site at Gaydon. I was doing my work experience. It fell during the fortnight of my work experience. Work experience mostly spent fucking around, melting bits of plastic with a soldering iron, costing the factory thousands and thousands of pounds in industrial bubble wrap. Literally true, because they've got like the test and development site, like they have to like wrap up like car doors and ship them to America to be like fucking tested in the desert and all this shit. So they've got like industrial bubble wrap, and I'm talking like, you know, the regular bubble wrap, and like each little bubble on it's like, I don't know, a few millimeters across. Industrial bubble wrap comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, but the biggest one, it literally was bigger than my hand. Each bubble was bigger than my hand, right? You couldn't pop it with two fingers. You had to literally hold it like a cake in your hand and then slap down to make it pop. And the noise was fucking massive. It echoed through the building. And I took a great deal of fun doing this. And the workers didn't care till the gaffer came around and he was like, you've just wasted about £8,000 worth of fucking bubble wrap. And this was £8,000 20 plus years ago. So that's what I did. Anyway, and I wanted to watch the football, so in order to sort of keep me out of trouble, behind the paint shop there was like an empty kind of space bit, like a little alcove away from everyone, and they brought in a fucking shitty old TV, and I sat there and watched the game, and kept everyone up to date with the score and stuff, because it was on during the day, you know. It was in Japan and Korea, wasn't it? The World Cup that year, and so it was sort of during the work day here in Britain on a weekday, and so everyone was at work, and so I had to keep everyone updated, and it was heartbreaking because we could have won that day, but Sven-Goran Eriksson, the recently deceased, was an indecisive user of his the talents at his display. Anyway, so there's that. Also, it was like a proper secret, like almost military type thing. Because it's a test and development plan, you literally had to leave your phone at the door. Now, this was back in the day, I didn't even have a fucking phone. This was 2002, right? But I literally, each worker had to hand in their mobile phone at the front so that they couldn't take a picture of it to avoid industrial espionage. Like, it was proper like a secret fucking thing. It was mad. Anyway. Fun days. I was young and thin. The world seemed bright and things were possible. Ha ha ha.
Okay, but I think a solid 50% of Trump voters, remember a lot of them are independents, or a lot of...
Dickhead, she just showed you the numbers. It wasn't 50%. It wasn't even 20%. What the fuck are you talking about? She just showed you the numbers. It's not 50%. You're just lying.
Are in somewhere in the spectrum. At least 50%.
I think probably a lot of them are on the spectrum, but that's a different thing entirely.
Of them are actually anti-war. So what I'm seeing is all over social media, all over the right-wing shows, their own base.
Oh, Somniotic. I didn't really do anything. It was a complete waste of 2 weeks. For those who don't know, in Britain, the work experience thing, I don't know if it's still even done now. Maybe it is, I don't know. But back in the day, it was like to get you prepared for the world of work. You go to a place for 2 weeks, right? And you can try and arrange that yourself, or you can just let the school like place you with an employer. So my dad knew the fucking shop steward of the Gaydon plant, so we had an in. Actually, he was a close personal friend of the family. Shout out to that person. I won't dox them. Anyway, but it wasn't like the place itself wasn't set up to really help with that, because it's a car plant, really, like, you know. So I just fucked around, basically. I read the newspaper. I ate crisps. I flirted with the younger female members of staff. That was it. That was all I did, basically. I was a young, thin, beautiful creature. What can I say? I wish I'd fucking known at the time that's what I was. Not the monster I've become. Good lord. I went to Deutschland for work experience and performed a sanctioned murder on a cat. What the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about, Baron von Cockslap? A sanctioned murder on a cat. That's not... Well, if it's a sanctioned murder, it's not a murder, is it? It's just a killing. Do you mean you worked at a veterinary service and you euthanized a feline? Is that what you're telling me? Because that is fucking heartbreaking. What? You were preparing for your life as a Twitch streamer. That's actually true. Yeah. A bit hands-on for a 15... Yeah, a bit hands-on for a 15-year-old. Having them involved in a fucking euthanizing a cat. Surely that's a bit expert, isn't it? Surely you just have them like, oh, give eye drops to a dog or something. Like, you know, just... Oh, you've got to check the bollocks of this fucking hamster or something. Like, just... You don't have them fucking put a cat down. The fuck are you going to fucking mess their head up? If you're not careful, if you get people to do stuff like that, they're going to end up watching Twitch streamers for fun. Which is the most degenerate you can become as a human being, really, when you think about it. So, you know, don't mess with the kids' brains, otherwise, you know, they'll watch content creators, and that's just sad.
In an uprising. Why do you think Charlie Kirk, Tucker, and Bannon are doing those things? They're almost all of them are saying on their own shows, well, you guys are pushing me to do this, you know, and yeah, I hear you guys. We were supposed to be anti-war, right? Now, they're going to, guys, since this is like the first 6 months, are they going to go run back to daddy? Of course they're going to run back to daddy, right? So what we're trying to do is not turn all of them against all of Trump's policies instantly, because that is wildly unrealistic. You are trying to show, either flip them or show hypocrisy to the voters that you can reach on the issues where they agree with us. There aren't that many, but war is one of them with half of his base. So you guys think...
No, not with half of his base. That's a number you made up that flatly contradicts the actual number that you were given, with no reason to believe that you're correct in the slightest. More degenerate than being a Twitch streamer. There's nothing more degenerate than being a Twitch streamer. I mean, watching Twitch is like the next level. It's like the next level up of degeneracy, but yeah, no, being a Twitch streamer is literally the lowest of the low. Hey, hello, the Kevin FM. How are you? Everyone go and follow the Kevin FM, otherwise I will strike down upon you with furious vengeance, and you will know I am the Lord.
That if the left wing does a maximalist approach and we yell at those people, that those voters are going to...
Just be nice. Don't ask for things you actually believe in. Just give in to the right wing. I'm not a bought and paid for shill, honest.
Interpret it as, oh my God, they were right. Since they're yelling at me, I will now go to their side. My strategy is go on those shows.
Your strategy is get Peter Thiel money, shill, eat hot chip, and lie.
To talk to their audience and say, look, I'm not trying to trick you. I think you guys actually, a lot of you are actually anti-war.
YouTube watchers do not get a pass on that. No.
And I'm anti-war. And guys, you'd be surprised that they don't think the left is anti-war at all. They would have the same exact conversation in reverse. They would ask incredulously, who do you think is more anti-war, left or right? And they would all say right, and that the left is more pro-war. And I'm like, no.
Based on what? But based on what?
Guys, no, we're totally anti-war. So Dave Smith and I did a coalition. Dave Smith did a great job on your show. Breaking Points, fantastic. I agree with you. Libertarians are the first to peel off. And great, look, we peeled off the libertarians on the issue of war.
No, you didn't. You peeled off Dave Smith. So, like, okay, cool. But that, like, libertarians are some of the most fucking unprincipled pricks out there. They believe in small government when it comes to, like, regulation on milk. Not on bombing brown people. They love bombing brown people. I can't get enough of it, a lot of them.
Perfect. And we're doing a website, unitedagainstwar.com, where I'm inviting allies. And if it turns out...
Can't wait. I can't wait to see what a fiasco that is.
Only the libertarians come and the right wing does not come. Okay, then that's what...
We should try and unionize that website. See how that goes.
Happened. So now, if you're saying that no revolt happened at all, it was all fake, all the media guys were fake, 100% of them, and all the voters were fake, 100% of them.
Well, most. Not necessarily 100%, but most.
They all actually love war. Okay, that's a straw man. I don't think you're saying that. But you got to tell me what you are saying. Are you saying that none of their voters are anti-war, or a big chunk, or a small chunk, and that if we yell at them, they'll become more anti-war? Or if we reach out and say, hey, let's form an anti-war alliance?
Why is, hang on, but again, it's the straw man. Why is opposition to their pro-war position just shouting at them? You realise the left has been, like, campaigning consistently about stopping the war in Gaza, stopping the war in Syria, stopping US involvement elsewhere, stopping the US Army and fucking state trooper and all the rest of it action inside the United States against its own citizens. The right haven't been on those protests by and large. Maybe Dave Smith went to one or two, but your average MAGA voter didn't.
There'll be more anti-war.
So I'll tell you what I'm saying. I think that once Trump starts bombing Iran, those numbers we just showed you are correct. So like 70 to 80% of the Republican base will be in favor of it. That's what I'm saying about it. But I want to ask you, when Trump does bomb Iran, do you think the number among Republicans will stay at only 50% supporting it, or is it going to go up to 70 or 80%? Hey guys, this is just a little piece of an hour-long...
Anyway, you get the idea. Cenk won't apologise. He'll be wrong again, obviously, because he's, like, always fucking wrong. But he won't apologise for anything, because why would he? He's already been wrong, and he doesn't apologise for that, so when he's been proven wrong later, when Tehran lies in ruins, when 1 million fucking Iranians lie dead, and that blood is smeared all over the hands of Trump and the MAGA movement, and not one of them really stood up and did anything to stop this. In fact, many of them will cheerlead and become the biggest hawks that ever hawked. Cenk Uygur will come on and say, the left is bad. Why did the left force Trump to do this? Because that's the poly market shell game that he's playing. That's the position that Cenk holds in that ecosystem. It's to point the finger and blame the left, but from the left, guys, honest. It's a kind of variation on the why I left the left bit. And actually, to be fair to them, both Cenk and Anna have got both individual, unique approaches to their why I left the left bit, where neither of them are quite doing why I left the left. They're both kind of pretending to sort of almost still be on the left, but not being. It's an interesting ploy. It's at least vaguely original. Like, one of the problems with Dave Rubin is that he was such a pathetically boring and stale thing, right? That it was so played out. Everything he was doing was just unoriginal and shit. And he was a right-wing cunt and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I know that the full video is available and all the rest of it, but I can't be bothered. I honestly can't be bothered. So I'm going to raid out into Riverboat Jack. Everyone go and follow Riverboat Jack, who is an awesome stream arena. And I will be back later. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure if No Justice is back in the UK. If not, I will do a stream on my own. That's fine. We'll do more award-winning gerbalism. Just you and I, chat. So stay tuned for that one. It'll be a bit later than usual. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Thank you for all of your support. I love you. I love you all. Free Palestine. No pass around.
Let's move.